Hvis dere kan bli forelsket i New York, så faller dere også for HTH sin nyhet New York. Med de svarte metallrammene og det industrielle utseendet. Da er det bra at vi har ham her. Han hjelper dere. Og hvis dere ikke vil montere det selv, så har vi også ham her. Og før dere vet ordet av det, har dere et nytt kjøkken. I kult design og med smarte detaljer. Smart, ikke sant? Det er kjøkkenkjærlighet som holder.
Da er vi klar.
5 sekunder. E4.
D6.
D4.
D5.
Springe C3. Springeslår E4. Dronning D8 sjakk. Løpe G5 sjakk.
Konge C7.
Løper D8 matt.
Over og ut.
Welcome to the broadcast of the Altibox Norway Chess Super Tournament. This is the 7th edition of the event already, and today is the starting day, the Blitz tournament. We are going to cover the round with the one and only Judith Polgar, the greatest female player of all time.
Hi, nice to see you here. Welcome. And I'm very excited about seeing just in a few minutes some great, fantastic challenges by the top players in the world.
How excited are you about being here? This is the first time that Judith is visiting the Norway Chess Super Tournament.
I'm very excited. I have heard so many good things and interesting things about the event, that it's so well organized and the players are happy. There's so many of the players are coming back each year. So I'm very happy to be here, and so far what I've seen, it's very interesting, exciting. We are practically controlling the hotel here at the lobby, everything about chess and streaming and photographing, and so it's a lot of excitement here right now, and I think the players are already warming up.
Most certainly, and this year is going to be a very special year in the history of Altibox Norway Chess. 7th edition, but for the first time the organizer decided to change the format. It has never been seen before that the draws will basically not be an option. Every round we will have winners, whether it's the classical game that they will win, or if it's a draw in the classical game we will see Armageddon, but we will always have a decisive result. How do you see that format, Judith?
It is very interesting, very unexpected, I must say, and at the press conference also most of the players were kind of looking forward, being excited, they're curious, they don't really know what to expect. And I was also thinking about it. What would I do, or what would I think?
What
if
would
I
you do? Can
would
I
be
ask?
still competing? And of course, the players also got this question that. What are their experiences and how do you feel? And none of them could really say too much because it's a completely new format. And of course, it was brought up practically because of November World Championship match.
12 draws. We've been there.
Yeah.
We've seen it. First draw.
Yeah, exactly. And well, I think it's important that everybody knows that this is a try, this is a testing mode of this kind of event. First of all, it will be very interesting, the classical game, which I don't know how much we can call it classical. As after move 40, the players, until move 40, they get 2 hours. Actually, for the whole game, they get 2 hours
No
each.
increment until move
And
41.
only after move 40, from 41, they get only 10 seconds. So this is going to be a real blitz game at the end. And I was talking with some of the top players here, and for them also it was not clear at all whether is it a really classical game. Maybe it would be better to switch that in the beginning they get few seconds for some moves and then get more time. So I think there will be a lot of excitement and a lot of unexpected things happening here.
I think so too. The whole chess community, what I have seen on social media is that everyone is welcoming this new format. No one knows how it will turn out. It's an experiment, the first time that we see this time format. And the scoring system too is different because of the classical and the Armageddon game. No one knows how it will turn out, but everyone seems to be excited about it. The players, the spectators, and I think we commentators as well are welcoming this change.
Well, I think it's definitely appealing for the spectators, and for us it will be great fun, I think, especially today that we're going to have a Blitz game shortly coming up, but also every day we'll have all kind of unexpected, strange things happening, and I'm sure it will be really exciting to listen to players' experiences, whether who is going to be the lucky one or the one who is really the luck is going to be on his side. So it is a lot of excitement. So for all the fans out there, I can only say that come and see the games because there are a lot of unexpected things happening in the next days.
And actually a few meters away from us, we can't show him, but it is the favorite to win the tournament, the world champion Magnus Carlsen. He has won every single tournament he played this year, and if we count the World Blitz Championship too, that was in December, he's on a winning streak, going from one tournament to other claiming titles. But here in Norway Chess, the last time he won was 2016. Do you think that 2019 is the year of Magnus Carlsen and we're going to see him win here as well?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to point out that when you play on homeland, the home court is not necessarily the best court for the players. I think there are quite a few examples of that top players are playing in their home country, and it's somehow they find it more difficult for whatever reason. So I don't know if Magnus has a problem with that or no, or that's an issue as well. But he's really in amazing form now. After it seems like after the World Championship, he's relieved. It's like really it was a big stone on his shoulder, and it was so difficult for him also to take the crown again. And somehow since then he was playing spectacular. Not only the result, but I liked quite a few games of his also. The way he played, you could feel the energy and the love of the game he had. And somehow he also played in a freestyle somehow that he found maybe his younger himself. And so he's in great form now, and he has of course great chances.
I have the same impression of Magnus and his playing style. He has also switched because of the World Championship, his repertoire. Partially we see the same Sveshnikovs and Kalashnikovs coming back from his preparation against Caruana. And as you said, he seems to be free from the weight of needing to keep the crown. The crown is his for at least one more year. So he can be freely experimenting with a new, more dynamic and aggressive playing style, which I think you love.
Yeah, of course. I mean, some of his games he played in Blitz and in Rapid also. This is actually what amazed me lately, that when you see Magnus playing, even in Blitz games, he can he had a game, I think, I'm not sure, maybe against Karyakin, if I remember well. I'm not sure, it was a Blitz game, and I just counted it that he had a very nice game, and he was practically calculating 19 moves line, in a Blitz game. he had a winning position in this. This is somehow it goes easy for him, right? So, but also in rapid game, he comes up with ideas which I would be happy to do it in a classical game. Let's put it that way. So it is really fun to see him play now.
Very inspired Magnus Carlsen. We shall see if there's anyone who can match up his level, who will be in top shape. We are not aware of anyone who should be the clear favorite. Apart from Magnus Carlsen, of course, we have last year's winner here, Fabiano Caruana, to defend his title. The winner of 2017, the edition in 2017, Levon Aronian is here as well. We can call them favorites, but Wesley So did great as well last year. Vishy Anand. Who do you think will give the biggest challenge to Magnus with this new format? So this is so new that no one really has the predictions right, I think.
It is really difficult to say, I must say. I think we'll see something of the form of the players today at the Blitz event. I think I'm not saying it's going to be decisive, but it gives a little hint to us who is in what form and what shape. And I think it's very much unpredictable what is really going to happen, because all the players at the press conference said that they are not sure how it will work out. There is even a debate whether is it better to play with the white pieces or with the black pieces, because white will get 10 minutes and 7 minutes for black, but black has a draw odd, right? If it's a draw, then he wins that match, right? So it is very interesting that they are not really aware of it and they are not sure whether what to pick. And here, after the Blitz tournament, the winner can choose, right?
Yes, so the system is the following. The winner of the Blitz tournament will get to choose a number. That means that in a classical tournament, you would normally want to have more whites. But what Judith is emphasizing, that you may want to have more whites or more blacks, depending on what do you prefer in the Armageddon game. Because the same color you have in a classical game, if you make a draw, you will get to repeat the color. And for instance, Magnus Carlsen himself at the press conference said that maybe it's actually better to play black. He's more comfortable playing an Armageddon with the black pieces.
Yes, because he's a player who plays very fast, so maybe he feels more comfortable. And actually, that's what he said, that he feels more comfortable that if it's a draw, then it's him who takes the point, the victory, right? And as he doesn't need time so much, then probably he considers. But I'm pretty much curious about that, what happens in the Blitz, and when he has the question, if he's going to be asked, what do you want? Whether you want to have more whites in the tournament or black, what will be his answer? Because I felt that he's very much on the favor of having 5 blacks, but this will be probably the only tournament and first tournament in his life that he would say something like this.
That's true. And also, if we take into account that the winner of the Blitz tournament will get to choose, but the second, third, fourth, and so on, they will get the highest number available. So, for instance, if Magnus wins and he picks more blacks, then the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, am I good with maths? They will all get more whites, whether they want or not. So do you even want to finish second, third, or fourth in the Blitz if you prefer more blacks? This is going to be a very exciting Blitz tournament. I don't think they can actually influence that, because you want to play your best, so you will not be counting the points, I guess. On purpose, you will not lose.
Well, all the players said that they are not really going to be playing differently the classical game just because of the playoff system and the Armageddon. And this is really interesting what is going to be happening here. But I saw just a second ago that the players were already adjusting the pieces, the routine thing, right, before the game. Really, they have to be ready. The jacket will be off, I guess. Actually, Aronian took his jacket off already. And both players are really getting ready for this sportive game.
We are going to focus on the game of the world champion against the winner of 2017, Levon Aronian. And the time control is a 3-minute plus 2-second increment Blitz game.
And we are having a Pearce again. Their last game, or no?
Yeah, against Vishy, Magnus played in Scotland just a few days ago, the Pearce. And this was a different move order, but they are transposing to the Pearce.
They are playing flashing out moves very fast, but actually this is how the whole game will be played. C3 is a solid way of playing the system. Of course, knight to C3 Also kind of a natural move, but c3 is a solid way.
To strengthen the center, so white is aiming for this more space that he has created with e4, d4 and strengthening it with c3.
Rook e1, I'm expecting e5 by Magnus. I have the feeling it's time, and he just played it, probably h3. It's a typical move, so white is stopping the black bishop to be able to come to g4.
Because that would put pressure on the d4 pawn, that's why defending against the pin is a good idea, preventing bishop g4. I think we are switching to the
Rook
bird view.
e8.
I love this angle, especially for Blitz. I think when at the very end of the game, when there are only a few seconds left and both players will be just fleshing out moves, this is going to be our angle to look at the board.
Yeah, interesting that Aronian closed the position with d5, knight b8 goes back, and later on knight bd7 will be played. So now c4 will be the continuation I'm expecting from Levon.
And a5 immediately played by Magnus to stop b4, further queenside expansion
Knight
by
c3,
white.
developing move, so I don't know if knight a6 is a very typical thing from the King's Indian, and actually we can say that we are having a kind of a King's Indian situation, because even though the game was starting with e4, but white pawn on c4 and d5. a3 is played against the possible knight b4, but not only that, but white was threatening with b4 because of the pin. Things are really happening fast, so bishop d7, rook b1. White's aim is to play b4, and then the knight on a6 stays out. So in these situations, knight c5 is the natural continuation, and after that to play a4 with black.
To stop white from pushing b4. How will we see the...
And knight c5 just happened in the
Yeah.
board, sorry.
What will be the typical plan for white in this situation after black is controlling the queen side with knight c5, a4?
Well, I think definitely black will be playing a4, stopping from white to play b4 and attack the knight on c5. At least that's a kind of a logical move to play a4 here. And we have it on the board? Not yet.
No, Magnus is taking some time to push a4.
Yes, because it's kind of it's a commitment to play, but I think it's very hard to find with black to do something else. So white's aim is really to play b4 and attack the knight on c5. But in other hand, after a4, the reason is probably why Magnus is thinking, because after a4, bishop e3 is possible. And after that, he might lose the a4 pawn. So this is not necessarily so good for black if he cannot go a4, but probably Magnus then will play something like knight h5, and if after b4, he will be taking and playing knight a6, for example. But when I was playing King's Indian myself, I did not like it, and I was trying to avoid to have the knight on a6. But later on, probably he will be trying to play f5, to play knight f4. And don't forget that this is a blitz game of 3 minutes and 2 seconds. I'm though quite surprised that Magnus is thinking, because I think originally his plan must have been a4, to stop white playing b4.
Yes, he was definitely aiming for pushing the a-pawn, but now he's thinking about it. I think we have a slight issue with the time, so the clock that you see next to Magnus's name is not the correct one, don't worry. He's not about to flag. I don't think he's only down to 50
Actually,
seconds.
he sacrificed the pawn right now, it seems. And wow. Things are really going very fast. And well, now in the center, really fast things happened. Right now, Aronian has a pawn up. He just took a pawn on b3. And in the center, it's opening up after c takes d5. Now I'm curious whether e takes d5 or knight d5 we played. E takes d5. White is taking over the center. So actually, Aronian is taking a lead here. e4 should be coming in this position for black. I don't think there is anything else which can be tried. Try to kick away the defensive knight on c3, but d takes c5 was...
D takes and bishop c5 is on the board, after which Magnus has played bishop to f5, attacking the rook and also opening up the
well,
d5.
rook bd1 is the move.
Very logical, and now Magnus played knight to d7 very quickly.
Yeah, now probably white will be either go to b4 or to come back to e3 Both are completely logical. I think bishop e3 is the kind of the safer move and logical. And
Has been played as well as e4.
e4, knight d4. I have the feeling. Of course, black wants to get his d7 knight to d3 in one way or another, either through via c5 with the tempo or via e5. And looking for counter chances. It's important that e4 pushes away the knight from f3. And after that, also the queen to h4 can be played. So there are more material can be sacrificed by black. And for sure, there's some tactics going to happen on the king's side.
Yes, Levin has taken some time to calculate all those complications, but he's up on the clock, so it's a pawn up for Levin Aronian and also more time. Knight to c5.
After e4, knight d4, knight c5 happened. So now white should be playing queen c2 he played. Pretty sure knight d3 will be the move. Rook f1 and now rook c8.
Yeah, just want to see a moment. We have our knight.
Okay,
good.
thanks. Now the knight on d3 is really active, and black suddenly got a little compensation. Though it's interesting that he chose to play h5. I think he just wanted to play something very fast and give white to the option to play an f3, which is quite a brave move.
Challenging the e4 pawn, but also allowing the opening of the e file. Magnus has gone knight to e5.
Yes, and now
rerouting the
knight c4 is threatening.
Knight takes f5 by 11, and knight c4 intermediate move to attack the queen and the bishop.
Well, still white will be going to f2 with his queen, and it is happening.
And
G
after
takes
G
f5,
f takes
e4, and knight b2. Of course, some tactical things happening.
The
Queen
knight on
b2,
c3 hanging.
Bishop c3. White will be going back queen f2, and Magnus has a very vulnerable king side at
He
this
took on
point.
e4 with the rook.
It's
The f5 pawn has been collected, as well as the bishop on e3.
Yeah.
Queen takes f7. It's heating up. Will Magnus get mated? Is there a mate here, or just a perpetual check?
Actually-
Queen f7 back, and the
Yes.
rook moves to the 5th rank, threatening rook h5.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and now there is no
5
defense.
seconds left for Levin Aronian. He decided not to go for the perpetual, and the handshake by Magnus. This is resignation from the world champion. What a game to start with.
Yeah, I mean, everything was flashing out, right? I mean, there was a crucial moment, I think, unexpectedly. It was, if we go back to move 14, it's this was the moment which was somehow confusing for Magnus. And he decided to go for a4, which was... I understand that he didn't want to go back, admitting it, that he cannot stop b4 from white side. But okay, let's see the others,
If there are
right?
any let's just see if there's any other games still going on. I think Wesley So is still playing, and also Ding Liren against Yu Yang Yi.
Well, Ding Liren is going to... oops, did he lose on time or what happened?
That we also have a handshake between Maxim Vachilegrad and Wesley So. The games are finishing at the same time. It's
Oh, they
Blitz.
draw.
So, a draw between Wesley and
Wesley
Maxim.
and Maxim.
And the two Chinese players. So that was a victory for Yu Yang Yi, beating his compatriot.
Yeah, Ding Liren.
Yu Yang Yi. This is the first time Yu Yang Yi is participating in Norway chess, and he started with a victory.
Yeah, and actually it's funny, I'm just checking Greece Anand game, and
Oh,
they are very solid. We must say that 20 moves, probably they flashed out. It was really a warm-up game for them.
and the game between
It
Karwan
seems.
and Mamedyarov must be. Yeah.
Wow,
Oh, Mamedyarov
that
won with the
was-
black pieces against the world number 2.
And the king is on f4, so it must have been not easy to play it with the white pieces. But this is what we are going to see, I guess, in the upcoming rounds also, that things are really happening very fast.
Yeah.
So,
This is a game we could go through, the Karwan and Mamedyarov game, since we can only focus on one game at each round of the Blitz tournament. But in hindsight, let's just see what happened.
Yeah, let's see.
The critical moments.
what happened? It was a Caro-Kann game, it seems. Bishop d3, a solid way of continuing, not playing the Panov or He was not choosing in move 3, he went to the solid way. c3, knight c6, h3, again against the possible bishop g4 if knight f3 is coming, g6, knight f3, bishop f5, bishop e2, bishop g7, castles, castles. It's not much for white. Actually, I would be very happy with the black pieces. Actually, if we see it, black is more developed at this point of the game.
Yes, especially after wasting a tempo with bishop d3, bishop e2.
Yeah, this was not very fortunate from white side to go to d3 and then go to e2, because now I have the feeling that black really took over already at this stage of the game, because black has his knight on e4, he's more developed, probably he's going to be coming with his queen on b6 possibly. Knight d2, black played queen d7. It's a very, very solid position for black. And I think black is simply slightly better. Black has this battery on this diagonal with the queen and bishop. So bishop h3 can be also sometimes a serious attack. Rook e1 is a logical way of continuing. Knight f1, trying to get to e3, right? But black played f6. It can be a very strong move in these kind of positions.
If you
to
get e5.
give the support of e5, and the black center can be very powerful, and white is not really having too much of a counter chance. And this e4 knight is really something that black can be very proud of.
So after knight e3, e5 was indeed played by Mamedyarov, taking the initiative, and bishop h2, bishop takes
And
h3.
finally, well, of course, Mamedyarov couldn't resist. I wouldn't resist either of sacrificing, though I'm not sure white is not prepared against this, to be
So
honest.
black gives up the piece for 2 pawns and the kingside attack. Let's see how strong
but
this attack
actually,
is.
I'm not sure at all that this was the best thing. Maybe, actually, I must say that after bishop e2, maybe bishop e6 could be maybe a better option, and just to keep the threat here, because it's very difficult for white to continue the game. So maybe bishop h3 actually was a little over-optimistic, but after all, it's a blitz game. Here bishop g2, because white is completely having a very strong position with his double knight and double bishop front of his king. King h8 is solid move. Queen e2. I would be considering maybe to play knight d2, trying to exchange the queens and
Makes
knights.
perfect sense to defend
Somehow
the king better.
to get rid of, but there is a lot of tactical opportunities in such a position. Also, well, knight d5, I don't know if this is something
To
possible.
undermine the knight on e4.
And now the e4 knight is under attack, so... Because, for example, if black would be taking, white takes, f5 and e4 could be very strong, unless white would have a trap,
Yeah,
trapping
that
the
would be
queen on
nice with
h4.
h4.
So, but of course, when you have maybe a minute or 20 seconds, you don't necessarily want to make all these kind of moves. So queen e2 is a very solid move, actually. Probably white was planning to bring his rook. G5. G5 is a good continuation, because black wants to... Pawns can be extremely strong for black in such positions. G4, knight d2, e takes d4, and it seems like things are falling apart for white, and f5. Now I think black has a really nice position, because the e4 knight is defended by the double pawns, f5, d5. Suddenly the bishop is attacking with the knight and the bishop to d4, so somehow white's position seems to be quite vulnerable.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's an extra piece for white, but his minor pieces are not doing very well in terms of activity.
Yeah, right now it's if black will ever be able to push f4 and then f3, then the game would be over. So, but the main problem is now for white that on the black squares, he has to give up his white bishop, because otherwise knight would come to f3, and this would be deadly for white. And takes, d6.
So there's a check
h2.
on h2, but the h1 square is guarded, therefore king f1 is still all right.
But it's still a very, very interesting game, as black found h5. The plan is kind of simple, but to go with the pawn all the way to h3 and to attack the bishop.
And the question is if white can do anything about it. It takes 2 moves to push the pawn to h3. It seems slow, but at the same time, what can white do?
I don't know, but maybe, well, Queen b5, I understand the idea behind it, that actually I would think that white would want to go to king e2 and somehow sneak out. What about playing king e2 and after f4 to go rook h1?
Once again trapping the queen, but f3 check.
After f3, it's tricky because white cannot go king d2
Queen d6.
because queen d6, even though it's, yeah, kind of a problem. And if after f3 white would be going to e1, then
Ooh,
unexpectedly.
very beautiful tactics.
But I'm not sure. Maybe rook
I think it's not
h2,
so
g1,
strong. Knight f1
knight
defending the
f1,
rook.
and suddenly black can be in trouble with the pawn on h5.
Who gives mate first?
But of course, when you have few seconds on your clock, it's not necessarily that you go for something like this. But definitely, this is I would sneak out with the king and come with rook h1. I think this could be some so knight f5 is kind of a brave thing. That's very clear because of g3. But still, I wouldn't be surprised if white would have still a good position. I think actually it seems like white is winning here. After gf2, I think king f2 seems
Wow.
But okay,
Wow,
queen g1 is a threat.
is a threat, that's true. And then queen takes g2, so he had to prevent that.
Yeah, but still, I don't know if rook h4, for example, whether is this possible.
Queen g1, king e2,
Queen g1,
queen takes,
king e2. Well, now rook
or
e8.
even rook check. Yeah.
Well, if queen g2, then I think rook h5, king goes to g8, knight e7, and somehow white should be giving the mate.
Yes.
King f7, probably.
It
I
has
don't-
to be made
I
in a
don't
few
see
moves.
the
Rook
mate, but it
f5,
should
bishop
be.
f6.
Or king e6.
Oof. Adventurous king.
But it doesn't look good. For black.
No. Yes, but in a blitz game, it's crazy to calculate all these complications. We are just observing the game between Fabiano Caruana and Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. This was from round 1 of the blitz tournament here at Norway Chess, and there are 8 more rounds to go. So the players are taking their seat for the next round, and we will pick one game to focus on every round. We will have one main game, and once that game is over, we can check the rest of the game. Since it's a very quick time format, we cannot really cover more than one game at the same time. The pairings are up. It is Magnus Carlsen versus Ding Liren on the top board, Vishy Anand versus Yu Yang-gi, Wesley So against Levon Aronian, Grishuk against Caruana, and Mamedyarov versus Bashir. 3 of these players are leading, Aronian, Mamedyarov, and Yu Yang-gi. I would pick one of them. Which game do you think we should go for? From Aronian, Mamedyarov, and Yu Yang-gi, the leaders. After, if you can call someone a leader after one round.
We take Aronian.
Aronian, we're going
Let's
to
see.
focus on the Wesley So, Levon Aronian game.
Let's see here.
Adjusting the chairs. Every player has their own chair, so it's not just that the pieces need to be set back on the boards, but also the chairs need to be moved every round. Wesley is in a good mood as far as I can see. It's a bit of a smile on his face about adjusting the height of the chair. I think they are using the same chairs as us. It's a very comfortable chair, actually. I like it.
Yeah. Aronian is very much focused, I think.
All right.
He very much wants to win this.
I didn't know that for the
This
Blitz
time,
the chairs are not moved, but for the classical portion and the Armageddon, the
okay.
chairs will be adjusted to every player. That's why Krasny needed a bit of a help from the arbiter to get the perfect height, to reach the pieces.
So it was a very interesting game. Unfortunately, we couldn't finish it, that game, but there were still surprises in that game between Mamedyarov and Caruana before. So
Crazy game.
it's also important that how they can adjust after such a game, that it was really messy, and actually Caruana had a good game, I think. At some points after the opening he was worse, and then he was kind of winning, I think, also. So they have to recover in a few minutes, and we are just looking the next round between So and Aronian this time.
Yes, Levon Aronian, after beating Magnus Carlsen in the first round of the Blitz tournament, is now facing last year's almost winner, Wesley So.
We see an Italian opening.
It was Wesley who won last year the Blitz, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I'm just double checking. So Wesley won the Blitz, and then he tied for second place he was the one to beat Magnus Carlsen last year, and that spoiled Magnus's tournament here. So, not good memories for Magnus in that sense.
Well, so far they are playing very fast. In this line, Black already played a6 to make a lift for his bishop on a7, castle. Rook e1, very typical moves are made. Though h3 was not played, I think it's a question whether bishop a7. Well, it's kind of a prophylactical move, so d4 later on it will not come with a tempo.
And now h3 to prevent
And now
bishop
h3.
g4.
Yeah, it's interesting that all these systems, h3 is almost a must move for preventing in the long run. King h8. This is an idea that Black will be planning to play knight h5 and playing f5, playing it very fast, energetically,
Yeah, and you
and
need your king
straightforward.
out of the
And there
pin.
are simply positions where it's more difficult to play it with the white pieces, and I think this is also one of a kind of a position where it is not so easy with having only 2 or 3 minutes on your clock stand this attack what will be coming, I think, from Black's side.
Would you take Black in these kind of positions?
Actually, I never played, or I played very few games with e5, and now we see on the board knight h5. The plan is also to play knight f4. The question is whether can white go knight g5 in this position. This is a basic question, but well, probably some messy things are going to be, and there's some exchange sacrifices in there, probably knight f4. But we'll see what did white play.
Wesley went for d4 instead, as far as I can see. We just need to
This
go
is the game.
back to the game. Oh yeah, just give me a second. So d4, f5, and knight g5.
So now the question is whether Black is probably queen e8. Queen e8 is a move which covers the f7 square at the same time the h5 knight. I'm wondering why Black is thinking. He's thinking. In these kind of blitz situations, it is kind of tricky to spend some time. So queen a8 is on the board as far as
And
I
Wesley
see.
has captured the pawn on
I know.
f5.
He played knight f6.
Oh! And e takes f5 was
Knight
played by
f6, e
Wesley.
takes f5. Yeah, because if white would have captured and played knight f7, then the e4 pawn would be taken.
Bishop takes f5 by Levon. Wesley still has more time, about 2 minutes, and Levon is down to 1.5 minutes. This is, remember guys, a 3 minute plus 2 second increment game. They receive 2 seconds with each and every time they hit the
And
clocks.
we can see that Black is actually has an advantage in development. And okay, white took the exchange, but on the other hand, Black will be taking, I think, e takes d4.
So Levon decided to give up his rook for a minor piece and the central pawn that he's about to take on d4, but he's hesitating whether to capture on d4 or not.
Yes, because it's a temptation. What about playing d5 maybe?
Queen
But
d7,
he
attacking
went
the
queen
bishop
d7.
first.
Yeah, with an idea probably in this game we're going to see another sacrifice
On
on
h3.
h3.
Will it be the theme
Yeah.
of the day?
Yeah.
Queen to d7. The bishop will have to be moved from f7.
To
Wesley is
c4.
hesitating where to place it. He
I think
touched
c4.
it and now places it on c4. b3,
No, b3.
in the end.
b3. Well, maybe on c4. I thought he's going to go to c4, so to have a defensive bishop on f1. But now e takes d4, c takes d4. I have the feeling the knight will be taking on d4. Or
Bishop takes d4.
Yeah, because for now white cannot go bishop e3 because the b2, so he cannot develop with the bishop so easily because the b2 pawn is hanging. Probably this is the reason. And also, of course, the bishop attacking two directions, putting pressure over the f2 and the b2. But he played, he gave up. He thought activity is more
Development
important.
first, yes, indeed. He
But now
does
bishop
give
on
back the
e5
pawn.
will be standing fine unless f4 is taking it.
Well, is
Well,
that
bishop
a track
d4.
piece?
Well, bishop takes b1, and after queen b1, bishop d4 is possible.
So the bishop escapes because of the d4 square after queen takes b1. It's a
Or
minor
bishop
piece
c3.
and 2 pawns for the rook that Levon has.
For the moment, he goes bishop c3, and he wants to bring his rook to e8 in the next move to the open file. So the question is where white will be moving his rook.
Yes, he can keep it on the e5 if he plays rook to e2 or
Now
rook d1.
e8
It looks
will be
more
coming with the
natural.
tempo.
Both players are down to 50 seconds. Rook e8 and queen d3.
Well, now, of course, knight b4 is not yet a problem for white.
A fork that would give up the c3 bishop, so white takes 2 minor pieces for the rook.
Well, maybe bishop a5 can be... Bishop a5 can be very unpleasant, because then rook e3 is a threat now.
That's indeed what Levon played, and quickly it was responded with rook e2 and queen e7.
And now there is a very unexpected pin happened for white. He played bishop c4, but I think d5 will be coming on the spot.
d5 and d4. You can't move the bishop away from e3 because of the pin.
Well, I think white has to go probably bishop f2 at this point. That's what he should be trying.
Bishop f2, and
But
if
then
the
d
bishop is
takes
captured,
c4,
both
yeah.
queens are hanging.
Yeah.
Has he just blundered that after d5 there's no move? You can't
Bishop
keep the
a5
bishop.
was a very strong move, I think. And
Bishop to
now
b3 and d4.
and seems like Aronian, it's his day.
Levon is on fire. He has beaten Magnus in the first round, and he's about to win yet another game against Wesley So this time. And
Well,
Wesley
and it's
resigns.
over. Well, it was quite a fast game. and
Very
Aronian
impressive
has
play
two
by
out of
Levon. He sacrificed an exchange. He gave up his rook for a minor piece and a pawn and some initiative, but it didn't seem to be that clear-cut at all that he had enough compensation.
Let's see another game which is still running.
Yes, Mamedyarov Bashir is another really complex position. Let's just try to understand who is better and why.
I think this is what usually we get with Shakiyar.
Oh, and Maxime, the
But
two of
it's
them
like-
against each other.
I'm sure they have like seconds left, because
Yes,
things are really
7
messy
seconds
here.
left.
White has a piece up, black has 3 pawns for the piece, but wasn't it a rook blundered here?
And the c pawn is about to promote, but the knight goes to d7, queen e6.
Well, it's over.
And a handshake. After
Yeah.
queen e4
Mate
check,
within few
Maxime
moves.
wins.
And then we still have Grischuk Fabiano, also quite a crazy game, I must say. You have to catch up to understand this. But white seems to win in seconds. And actually, Fabiano, if I see the time correctly, he also has very short on time, but that's not the...
Not his biggest problem.
Yeah.
The king on a5 is not really comfortable.
Well, there is only some chances, oops, on h2, but
It was covered with
mate.
knight d6, and
actually
now
it's checkmate.
beautiful. Queen a2, checkmate. The king on a5 did not find shelter, and that's a win for Alexander Grischuk over the world number 2, Fabiano Caruana.
So actually, Fabiano has a bad start.
A really poor start. He has lost both of his games. How about Magnus? How is he doing in this round?
Let's see, Magnus. It's an interesting rook end game, but most likely it's going to be drawish. Magnus is fighting for a draw, but because of the very passive rook and the pawn is only on b6, it's going to be a draw here. White plays rook e5 and king c4. He's going to be exchanging the f4 for the e6, and it's
And the handshake at
just
draw is
agreeing to a draw.
agreed. This is a slow start for the world champion. He lost against Levon, and now this is a draw. There are still 7 more rounds left, of course. He can start a winning streak, but so far what we see is that Levon Aronian is on fire.
Oh, definitely. You can see he's playing very fast, and also he's choosing openings somehow that he feels comfortable with, and he can play the moves very fast, which is very important.
It is. Let's see the Anand Yu Young game as well that we didn't cover, I think, here.
And
Yu Young won
Vishy-
another game, so
Yeah.
that's 2 out of 2 for the Chinese player that makes his debut here in Stavanger. He's also the lowest rated player and the youngest.
Yeah.
Not a bad start for you, Youngie. And he won twice with the black pieces.
Yeah, black is.
Black is okay.
Yeah, black is completely. I mean, in a blitz game also, if we go back, which game to pick? Let's see how Carlsen did in this game. Whether did he have difficulties or struggle in the game as well? It's an English opening, and I'm curious how the game went. As this is all theory. Don't be afraid that knight is on G1 going back. And but again, I mean, it looks quite frightening, right? That the development of white is not very promising at this point. F4. Well, it is not a position I would take with the white pieces, to be honest.
Yeah, when you look at it, especially before the capture on F3,
Yeah.
you look at the white pieces and they are all on the back rank. Like, this is what you tell a beginner not to do. Move 9, and all the white pieces are still not touched.
But now white is starting to develop his pieces. D4, knight F3, queen F3. And actually this was a quite okay position, I think, for white. C5 I kind of like. Takes, B4. Actually, it seems like white is having a better position here. Now bishop b2, the bishop is on the long diagonal. It can be very powerful.
And the other bishop can come to
And,
C4,
if the
rook
rook
to
gets
G1.
to G1, yeah. D6, C takes D, bishop D6, rook D1. Well, actually, in this position, it's white who is trying to put pressure on black.
I wonder where he lost the pawn, because it was a pawn and rook endgame for Magnus.
Well, probably he started to push it too hard, like rook D7, rook F7. Yeah, it's pretty drawish, so it was not something special. Probably he was just pushing very hard.
As usual.
And,
Magnus always playing for a win, even when it's equal the rook endgame. But let's just see where that pawn disappeared. I think it could be the... Will it be the a4 pawn?
yeah, probably just he was.
Trying a little too hard, and then black had time to grab the a4 pawn.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he knew that he's not risking too much, generally speaking, even though, yeah, it's a pawn.
Well, this means that after 2 rounds, we have 2 leaders, if I'm correct with my improvised maths. Levon Aronian and Yu Yangyi both won their first 2 games, while Magnus Carlsen is not doing very well so far. He has made 1 draw out of the first 2 games. Fabiano Caruana, the world champion challenger, he started with 2 losses. That's also a very poor start. 7 more rounds to go, and in a few minutes the players will begin round 3. They have a 10-minute break between the rounds, and that gives us some more time to catch up with some of the games that we missed.
So let's see some other game here, what has happened. Let's say this game between Grischuk and Caruana, because it was some kind of funny end game.
And how the king ended up on a5, that's my question.
Yeah, that's it's a reversed King's Indian here. It's f3, bishop h5, h4, h6, knight h3. Yeah, it's a typical King's Indian, right? It's just with the other color. Bishop h3 is a very promising decision, and it's very good to bring out the bishop to g4, to f5, but all in all to control this diagonal. King g2 also making possibility for white to bring his rook. So white has a quite promising position, I must say. White is doing very good. He's getting the maximum out of the position what you can get in a King's Indian.
I'm just focusing on the king, so for now it's on b8, and I'm really curious.
Yeah, but it means it didn't go from g8
At
all the
least.
way to a5.
That would have been even better. a7, it's approaching the a5 square.
Yeah, and if anyone followed the game between Carlsen in the first round, Magnus against Levon, I mean, this is, you can see that when black is playing this b5, there also it was more or less the same setup. Now white can go knight, actually he could go knight a5, and he did not, surprisingly. White went back to a3, and then he started to activate his queen. And this is not the good news for black that he had to take on f5. I'm not sure he had to, but this was his decision because now the square e4
That's
for
a
the
beautiful
white
square
knight,
for the knight, yes.
it really gives a great opportunity. What a knight. Oh,
And if we
beautiful.
compare it to the g7 knight, which is just struggling to be defended,
And now white is threatening to take on g5, so after f takes g5, white would be pushing his pawn to f6. So it is very dangerous for black. And this was blundered.
oh, now the b5 pawn
Yeah, and-
would fall unless knight a7, but that
Oops.
allows knight c4 check. Problems.
c3. Actually, it's a very beautiful game from these.
How he break-
Look
yeah.
how beautiful the knight is on e4 and
The geometry.
controlling everything.
All the black pawns were on dark squares, and even
Yeah.
like this, there couldn't be a wall built because of this c3 and now c5. King on a5. This is
Well,
what
I
we
must
wanted.
say that Grischuk played a very nice game.
Yes,
He
has.
really outplayed in a beautiful way Caruana.
He has 1.5 points out of 2.
Unexpected
So
mate.
that's a good start also for the Russian Grandmaster. He's currently on 3rd place, right behind Levon Aronian and Yu Yang-yi.
So the players still have a break. Let's see what happened between Mamedjarov in this game.
That was another crazy game. We caught the very end of it, but we haven't seen the middle game.
Well, it seems like black is doing pretty fine. So far, black won more games.
Yes.
Clearly,
Oh, many.
big favorite it seems.
5 games won by black and only 2 by white.
Yeah, it looks a sharp game. Very sharp. Ah, but actually there was something went wrong for black. Ah, there was a blunder.
Too many
Or was
pieces
it- or-
hanging.
I'm not sure. Was it a sacrifice? But it seems like it's a piece down for black.
How did he end up winning? This is a
Isn't
clear
this-
piece.
Isn't this a piece up?
It is a piece up on move 17, and I'm sure at this stage Mamedjarov still had time.
No, but I think he just blundered the rook while we were watching
Okay, so
it.
Mamedjarov had a piece up. There's
Well, there is
one
a
pawn-
yeah,
one
but there is a
pawn and some
compensation
initiative.
because if
Yeah.
black is able to play c4 and after b3, b5, so there is a clear
Mm-hmm.
compensation now for black. c4, now it's a clear compensation.
the pawn arrives on c3.
But still, it's more or less this was a situation
Mm.
when we connected to this game. Yeah, it's not easy to do it with white. How to settle this? But okay, here Mamedjarov had only a few seconds on the clock. I see that the players are preparing themselves for the next round. Yeah, and here he just blundered the rook. In this position, he
In one
gave-
move.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is
Knight
this is-
c5. I think so far this is the biggest blunder that we have seen. There have been mistakes, of course, this is blitz and that's normal to make mistakes, but this
Yeah.
is a really big one that you move away the knight that's protecting the e1 rook and that just gives up the rook immediately. For a 2800 Grandmaster, this is not something that happens to him every day.
Well, hopefully not few times a day. No, but probably he had only a few seconds left, I think, at this point.
Let's bring up the
let's-
pairings for
yeah.
round 3 if we can, and we will choose our main game for this round. If we continue on the assumption that we should follow one of the leaders, then we can choose between Levon Aronian and Yu Yang-yi. Yu Yang-yi is going to play against Magnus Carlsen, and Levon Aronian is facing Shahriar Mamedjarov.
I think let's see the Magnus game, UNG.
Yeah.
Let's see this match.
So you can see the points next to the players as well. 2 of the leaders we mentioned, Yu Yang-yi. So that's a surprise leader. Levon Aronian won the 2017 edition of Norway Chess. Yu Yang-yi, we mentioned, he's the lowest rated, the youngest participant, also with the least experience among super grandmasters. He doesn't get to play the same elite tournaments as the other participants.
Not yet.
Yeah,
But
not yet.
He's a very strong player.
He's, of course, and he won Olympic gold with the team of China at the Chess Olympiad.
So let's see. Let's see d4, I think, if I see it well. Do I see it well? Yeah, d4, knight f6, c4, So maybe c5. So what does Magnus is planning after
Is
d5?
it going to be a Benoni?
Or a Benko gambit? But no, actually he plays g6. Or yeah.
Yes, he did go for g6, bishop g7 very quickly.
Okay, so it's we'll see whether is he just going to play later on prob d6 and later on some e6 kind of Benoni type. Bishop d3. If I see it correctly. Yeah, bishop d3, I don't know, probably knight g2 will be played.
Knight to
Developing.
f3 has been chosen by Yu Yang-yi.
Knight f3. So let's see how energetic Magnus is.
e5,
then.
that's pretty energetic.
Yeah, interesting that it's not e6. Most likely it's not going to be taken on e6, but so castle, we're going to have a
And
long
knight h5, aiming for the f4
closed
square,
game
and
here.
f5.
Yes, he's very straightforward with his plan. He's not hiding it.
Not hiding it at all.
But actually, probably he wants to go knight f4 first. If he wants to go f5, it is very much advised to go h6 in principle. But now that the knight moved to e1, after f5, well, maybe queen e8 can be, but after queen e8, then knight b5 would be the move. So the idea is of knight e1 that white is putting pressure on the h5 knight. So f5 is not so simple to play for black.
Yes, since black would love to take back on f5 with the pawn, but the knight on h5 would be hanging after e takes f5, g takes f5.
So knight f4 has been played. Of course, black wants to go f5, and also later on with the knight, he wants to go to knight f6.
Trade
knight
on
d3
d3.
exchanged.
Yeah, he had to do something because the knight on f4 was already attacked with two pieces. Earlier
Actually,
on,
I would be even thinking after knight d3 to play g5. You know.
yeah, that was the other option.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention that white doesn't really want to go bishop takes f4 the moment black played knight f4 because that gives up the e5 square, and you also want to keep your dark squared bishop in this structure for white.
Actually, I'm kind of surprised that white took with the queen, because usually the plan is that white is capturing on f5, after takes, white is going f4, and then black has to make a decision whether he goes e4 or something else, but let's see, what do we have?
He took on f5
Yeah.
and now Yu
And
Yang-yi pushes f4,
And we're having this
e4,
position.
indeed.
So I wonder where he wants to go with his queen, whether he wants to go on the third rank to h3 possibly, or g3, but he went back to e2. So now the d4 square is somewhat strong for black, but bishop d4 is not necessarily the move. Bishop c3 is interesting sometimes to capture the knight in such a position. But black played immediately knight f6, knight d1, b5. b5.
Now that's an energetic move that you've been
Yeah,
looking
because
for.
now the d5 pawn is can be taken maybe, but I'm not sure. So probably, will he play a6? Yes, it's kind of a gambit, but white cannot take actually on a6 because bishop would be taking on a6, and the queen and the rook is on the same diagonal, so white would be losing some material. So this is somehow, I like it very much for black, I think, at this point.
Yes, very dynamic
This
play
was
by
a
Magnus.
very strong way of playing. b6 now, I maybe even a5 first, and only later to capture the pawn.
Certainly that's what Magnus is considering instead of just taking back automatically on b6. So he can get back the pawn anytime he wants.
But actually he's rushing for attack. He played just knight g4. He opened up his diagonal for his bishop, at the same time also for his queen. Knight e3. So I'm sure bishop d4 should be coming in this position, because bishop on d4 is very powerful. I think Magnus is happy with his position at this time of the game. Of course, it's a question whether what is the time situation on the clock.
That's also favoring Magnus. He still has a minute and a half, and Yu Yang is down to 50 seconds only.
Now it's important that he went back to f6, because for the moment, of course, white can only have one piece on e3, so now the c1 bishop is kind of staying back, and white is not well developed.
Rook
B8.
B8.
He wants to be taking it with the rook.
Makes perfect sense, and then there's pressure on the b2 pawn as well. Yu Yangyi plays rook b1 in order to be able to push the b pawn. It was pinned because of the d4 bishop. And bishop d2.
Yeah, now white is threatening with bishop a5 to pin the rook, but I think black will be just moving his queen away, queen e8, and also later on to move his rook back to b7. Or actually he did it right away, and he has this secret plan of playing rook g7 later on.
I would love to see that rook swing on the board and the kingside attack bishop c3, because this d4 bishop is a really powerful piece. White wants to get rid of it.
Well,
Queen
I think
e8.
Queen e8 is very typical, very strong, not only queen g6 but also knight to h5. Now white is trying to force black to exchange and give up the outpost of d4, but for the moment knight g3 is threatening after knight g5.
So Yu Yangyi goes queen e1 in order to prevent the loss of the queen, but queen g6 forces the matter. Now knight g3 is one more time a threat to pick up the rook on f1. Yu Yangyi is down to 20 seconds.
King h2, and now the question is how black is continuing. Maybe queen g7, for example, keeping the tension on the diagonal, or queen f6.
Queen f6 has
Queen
been chosen by
f6.
Magnus.
Yeah, because this is a very important square for the bishop, and until the moment black can keep this on d4. Queen d2, very logical. This is the fight is about in this game for this stage.
But that allows
Really
queen h4.
Trying to force black to exchange from his bishop on d4.
Queen e1, Yu Yangyi is insisting on that queen trade with 9 seconds left for the Chinese player, 47 seconds left for the world champion.
And rook g7. So black sacrificed the pawn for an attack, queen on g4, all kind of threat, knight f4, queen g3, rook g3 is in the air, queen d2, and now king g1, knight f4, I guess. Now knight h3 will be threat. Yeah, and this game will be a win for Magnus, I think.
It's a much needed victory for Magnus. It's going to be his first win.
f4 is coming. I mean, this finally the bishop from c8 is attacking. Here, it's actually should be.
Only 4 seconds left for the
But now
Chinese
it's,
grandmaster.
exchanging queens and taking.
Bishop takes h3 has just been played by Magnus, and Yu Yangyi, I think he's
Game
about
is
to
over.
lose on time, but also the position is really bad.
Yeah, he's just taking the rook in exchange, and well, actually, just few moves. Rook f6. He wants to f3. Yeah, everything is a win.
An exchange up for Magnus, and
Rook
an
h6
f
mate
pawn.
is a threat already. At this stage.
Beautiful finish, even without queens. The king could not escape. The first victory for Magnus Carlsen, and that adds up to a 50% score so far, 1.5 points out of 3. Let's have a look at the rest of the games that are still going on.
One more game is running.
Oh, we've just seen a
Mamidov.
handshake.
Okay.
He has just finished his game. That's the game between Levon Aronyan and Shahriar Mamedjarov. I'm wondering what Levon has played. The two leaders before round
I think
3.
it's a draw.
It
I mean,
should be-
looking the
unless
game,
someone goes
unless
back, but the position is a draw.
Yeah, it's a draw.
That means that we have no longer any player on 100% score. Levon Aronyan is still a leader with 2.5 out of 3, but Yu Yangyi has just lost to Magnus Carlsen. That means that the Chinese player is no longer tied for first place. I wonder if anyone has managed to catch Levon with 2.5 points.
I see we have some tactical things with the game. Vacher, Maxim beat Grischuk. Let's see, because it seems like there was a sacrifice. It's a Sicilian, C3 Sicilian story, but I think there was a sacrifice at some point. These h6 and h3 pawns can be captured in different situations. So it's an isolated pawn. It doesn't look so dangerous for black. But it's important for white now to exchange, because the isolated pawn, otherwise if black would have time to play rook d8, it could be no problem for black playing knight e7, knight d5 to blockade. This is why white played d5, exchanged, and now If the queens would be exchanged, then white is just having a slightly better position because of the bishop pair. So black was not very eager to exchange. Rook d8, queen h5, and in such a positions, obviously bishop h6 is something that has to be considered. And it
Judith,
seems
sorry, I
like-
need to interrupt you because I made a mistake, I think, when we wrote down the results. Maxime won in the first round against Wesley, so it means that he has won all his games.
Oh.
And he is the only player on 3 out of 3.
Wow.
Apologies, it was mistakenly written. I think I made a mistake with writing a draw for the Vachier So game, and he was just standing a few meters away from us when I said that there's no one on 100% score. So apologies, Maxime. Great job. 3 out of 3 for the Frenchman.
And actually, he just made a nice, very beautiful sacrifice, which was, it's a mating attack, bishop c2, and it seems like not possible to defend the mate, as if, let's say, black is just going somewhere, it's mate in 2. Mate in 2 moves. If in this position black would try to cover this diagonal, then the classical mating pattern with bishop h7, bishop g6, queen h7, and queen f7 checkmate. Okay, so
Very well
this
played
is a
by
very,
Maxime.
very nice game, very nicely.
And he is the sole leader of the event so far. 3 out of 3 for the Frenchman. He, by blitz rating, Magnus and Maxime are the favorites here. Both of them have a blitz rating above 2,900, which is really impressive. We can see the standings that Levon Aronian is now second after I miscalculated or miswritten the results. So Maxime Vachier-Lagrave 3 out of 3 with 6 rounds to go. He's the sole leader of the blitz event with Aronian and Yu Yang-yi on second and third place. 50% for the world champion, as well as for Mamedyarov and Grishuk and Ding Liren. Fabiano Caruana is on a -1 score. Vichy started poorly as well. He only has half a point. And Wesley So has lost all 3 games so far.
Yeah, it's not his day for until this point. That's clear. Let's see some of the games. What happened until the players have rest. Anand was beaten by Fabiano. Let's see this game. What happened here? Let's say it was an English opening.
This is an important game for Fabiano. He started with 2 defeats and now he bounces back with a victory over the former world champion.
Well, it's black has a good game. It's a very balanced game. H5 is getting active for black. H4 will be played. Knight d7, knight b3, of course b6. In such a positions, you always have to decide whether do you allow knight to go to c5 or you play b6. But in this situation, c6 square can be very weak at some point of the game, later stage of the game. Knight d6, d4.
Yeah, the pawn on b5 had to be protected, so white goes d4.
Yeah, it's defended by the queen. E takes d4, bishop takes, rook e8. Rook c6, this is the moment when finally white is taking advantage of black's move, playing b6.
Yeah.
When the pawn on b5, this is a very unpleasant situation for black.
The capture would create a c-pass pawn for white, and therefore Vichy went for bishop g4 and bishop e2.
Yes, but actually it seems like, isn't it grabbing some material? And it's strangely enough, black
Yes,
took.
and then he lost the game. So let's just see what's going on. If
What
he
is
had
strange?
taken the rook,
Well, probably white would just be taking it back and the d5 pawn would be falling
the
off
d5 pawn
later.
falls, the d6 knight is still in
No,
the
it's
air.
not clear. Black is going knight f6.
knight b6 or rook b6. Was he afraid of this initiative, or he just thought that taking on b5 was better instead of taking
I'm
the
not sure.
rook?
It would be interesting to see what was the time situation at this point.
Maybe he miscalculated, because after knight takes b5, black is threatening knight takes d4 as well, and the rook is still hanging. So this is very tempting
Actually,
too.
there was some miscalculation, I think, because
Knight
knight
d4,
d4,
queen
queen
d5.
d5, knight f5, and knight e4. And suddenly, bishop c4, queen d2, strange.
He must have blundered something, because so far it's a pawn up for black.
Yeah, it seems like black is better, even though the pin, but queen takes a5.
The queen
Pawn
captures the pawn,
equality
so
now, knight d4.
it was threatening knight e2. I still don't see where Vishy went
Well,
wrong.
maybe now rook d1, knight f3, rook takes e4, bishop f3. And now
Black
this,
can't take back because of rook d8, winning the queen.
yeah. And after queen e8, white is not taking, because actually that would be a mistake. White would be the one who gets mated this way.
That's a beautiful mate.
But white played the quiet king g2. And things fall apart for black, it seems.
The rook can't be moved because of the d4 knight that needs protection. So Vishy went for h4 to attack on the king's side, but this is a bit desperate. After knight c4, b takes.
G
White
takes
simply takes on
h4.
h4. Wow.
Rook takes h4, queen d5, and well, probably Vishy lost on time.
It's
Nothing-
the most
nothing
likely
else
outcome.
happened.
Yes.
That
The-
must be the case, because after knight e6, black is still giving a hard time for white, because knight f4 is coming. So actually there was a loss on time
he must have lost
by
indeed.
Anand.
It was a very exciting game where Vishy, I'm sure he thought that he had the upper hand, he was playing for a win, and then suddenly it sometimes happens that you calculate so much to find the best execution, you use a lot of time.
Yeah, and here in this kind of time control where you have 3 minutes and 2 seconds per move, as a bonus, you don't have time to think. It's matter of intuition. And practically Magnus was the one in the game one when he was thinking quite a lot of time at some point, and you just cannot afford that. It's clear. Let's see what happened between Dingley Ran and Wesley So. It seems a long game, so...
An interesting detail, by the way, Judith, if you look at the camera, everyone has the same kind of comfy high chair that we are using, but Grishuk decided that he finds that orange chair more comfortable. It looks like the kind of chair you would sit on in a cafeteria, the plastic chair. I don't know where he get that, where he...
No, actually, I can understand. Actually, it's one of the
Oh, yeah.
chairs from here.
Well, it
from the
doesn't look as
audience.
bad from here, but on the camera, I think from our camera angle, it does look like either
school
from
chair.
a cafe or school. Yeah, indeed. I was going to say, at a school canteen, you can find the exact
No, but
same
actually,
chair.
this chair is very comfortable.
It
but
is.
It can move. It can be, it can be
He
kind
didn't
of
want the wheels.
tricky. And I think, yeah,
'Cause
he
our
says,
chairs,
okay,
yeah.
he needs stability under his feet. And actually, I can understand him. And really, I mean, in 3 minutes, every small detail counts.
Do you think he will stick to that orange chair for the classical event as well? Because the players can choose their seats, their chairs, and every chair will have a label. So for the classical portion, the arbiters will be pushing one chair from the other, and they will have the heights adjusted. But I don't think you can adjust the height with that orange chair.
No, you can't adjust. You get what you see.
This is it. There are no secrets, no hidden details. This is the chair you get. And that's Alexander Grishuk. He's ready for the fight. How did he do in the last round? I was going to ask, but Maxim beat him. So it was a good start for the Russian Grandmaster, but he has just lost to the leader of the tournament, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. I think that means that we should focus on Maxim's game. He's the sole leader and he's playing with the black pieces in round 4 against Fabiano Caruana.
Yeah, let's be ready for this game. And it's very important to be very comfortable in when you play blitz, and you see that Maxim has his
Oh, the
his
shirt
sleeves,
all rolled up,
already
yes.
rolled up, because really in the last phase of the game, when you have seconds, every small detail counts.
Would you wear also something that you can roll
I was
up,
always
or
I
short
was
sleeves?
I was always dressed very comfortable when I was playing Blitzer Rapid, because
Yeah, we have a dress code here, so
So-
the players are sticking to the dress code. That's smart casual.
we have a Sicilian here, and Queen D4, Knight C6, Queen D2. So we're going to see B3, I guess, which we're seeing. They are really flashing out the moves F4, F5. So black is playing very energetically. F5, white castles long. It is a very, very interesting pawn sacrifice, I see. So black is now in dilemma to take it, but he prefers to put his king into safety.
It still must be preparation by Fabiano. The time control is 3 minutes plus 2 seconds, and the moment when he gives up the pawn on e4, he's still up on the clock in an extra few seconds.
Yeah, and what is interesting that also the top players, many of them have a different repertoire or some ideas which can be used in the blitz game because it's not so sound or they are not so sure about themselves. And this looks like a blitz game preparation from black side, for example, is F5, Knight F6. I don't know how brave Maxim would be in the classical game playing this, but maybe I'm wrong.
It's true that the players often prepare different variations of the same openings, or even different openings for blitz.
Yeah, yeah. For example, now black is going to be attacking probably on the queen side. I wouldn't be surprised if we would see later some move a5, but we see queen a5. It is a quite unexpected situation that black has no pawn on f7. Bishop c4 check was played with the tempo, king h8. And, well, I think rook e1 seems to be a quite comfortable move, and developing move. It just happened also.
With opposite side castling, we are expecting a very dynamic and exciting game where both players will be aiming for the opponent's king. There's a semi-open c file, and that's what Maxim is aiming for now with the rook a to c8 move. You can double rooks on the c file or start to push the b pawn.
A3 is definitely against the possible knight b4. White does not want to deal with that. Bishop g4, black wants to exchange on f3 and make double pawns on the f file for white. That's the idea. Well, let's see how white is reacting on this. Is he going to move his queen away? Or I wonder if white is going to be brave and play b4, but it looks rook e3 defending f3, stabilize.
That's a solid move now. Fabiano is somewhat down on the clock because it's 1 minute and 47 seconds left for the American. Maxim has been really playing very quick.
e5 is a very interesting move. Now it is a big question how white is reacting on this active move, because if white would be taking fe, then knight e5 and all kind of pins are around here.
He captured on e5, d takes e5, and Maxim is about to respond. He's taking some
is
time.
he going to take with the knight or
Pawn.
the pawn? Pawn?
d takes e5 has just been played.
Well, I think knight d5 will be somehow it will be some simplification. Knight d5 or knight b5.
And queen e1 by Fabiano, putting
Queen
pressure on the e5, moving the queen away also from a potential rook d8.
Well, probably white wants to go rook d6, possibly here. But, well, white wants to go knight g5 at some point. So if rook d8 would be, then probably takes a knight g5. Rook e8, b4. So I think it's time afterwards to go knight d5, being more active. Or knight b5 to d6. It depends where the queen will be moving. So black goes to b6. I would think that knight d5 will be the move.
Rook d6,
Rook
pinning
d6.
the knight on c6, so ideas with b5 also come into place, and knight d5, knight b5 are still also in the air, or knight a4.
Yeah, it's black is a little bit tight.
Queen
Knight
c7.
b5 now.
Very logical to defend the rook with a tempo.
Well, now knight g5 is coming. I have a feeling that something can go wrong for black.
Going back,
Back
to
to d2.
Oh, d2. That was surprising. But knight d6 is a threat, winning
That's
the
true.
exchange.
That's true. Knight d6, knight f7, and still not coming back to d1 because he wants to keep his option to go with knight from f3 to g5 as well. So the f7 square will be very vulnerable. Rook e7, knight d6.
The leader of the tournament is under clear pressure. Fabiano has the upper hand in this position. He has just grabbed the e5 pawn.
Yeah, and now it's it seems like Fabiano is taking this game, I think.
It's a pawn up for
Takes.
the world champion challenger. Both players have only a minute left on the clock, so this is going to be a really exciting stage of the game. A trade on e5.
Well, it was not exactly a trade, it was an exchange.
A bad trade on e5.
And the problem is that rook e7 is coming.
Was he counting on a discover attack? The problem is, yes, you can move away the knight from f6, but rook e7 is always the answer.
Yeah, and even
So
I think
this-
rook g7 will be the move, not even knight f7. After queen b8, I mean, it's...
This is soon
well, it's-
resignation time with the queen and the rook on the 7th rank.
But of course, it's a blitz, and fighting spirit is there, and you can always blunder. I would have just taken on g7, I think. I don't
Yes?
like these bishops, kind of. But of course, it's...
h3 by Fabiano. Yeah, that's very painful because now the bishop has also no space. You need to go back to c8. Ow, that just goes to show how bad black's position is.
I wonder already if queen f8 works, but probably that would be too much. But
Queen f8. That's also an interesting option. Rook c7, safe and sound. White's position is just full domination. An exchange up for Fabiano. He's about to be the leader of the tournament. Maxime started with 3 out of 3, and now he's going down against Fabiano.
yeah, it's strange that he's still playing this game because there's not much hope to have. Rook b7 now. So there is not much left for black.
I would say a mouse slip would be a possibility in online chess, but
Queen
over the board?
a8. Queen a8.
Oh no, a nightmare. And now g4. Everything falls. It's gonna be... Well, anything wins basically at
No,
this
still
stage.
there's one single chance, right? I mean,
check
I
on
would
the
just
back
go
rank.
queen f8 and rook b5, trap the queen or something, or queen f8, rook h7. I mean, the only chance for black to go rook f1 check, and then rook a1 check, and then...
Even like this, the b3 square is free. If the white
no,
pawn
it's,
was on b3...
You don't want to be on the black side of this game. No, this is too bad.
12 seconds left for Maxime. He plays queen b8 and after knight f7 check. King h7. Even the bishop... Oh, okay, this is it. He has had enough.
Yeah,
This-
yeah, definitely.
This was a nightmare for Maxime. Material down, and also his pieces were extremely passive. In the final position, white is a rook up and still has a mating attack.
Okay, let's see the others. I just see that Wesley So against Yu Yanji was a draw. Then we can see Ding Liren is still playing against Mamed Jarov. Actually, it's still... white is having a hard time. Black has 2 pieces
I
for
think
the
if we
rook.
check Magnus's game against Vichy. Oh,
Let's
he has
see.
just won.
Yeah, the
Beautiful
last game was a
finish, queen
turning
f5.
point, so he's clearly
He's
back.
on a winning streak. Magnus Carlsen wins
Yeah.
the second game in a row.
And then we have Grishchuk against Levon Aronyan, which is a very interesting position, a closed position.
King on
White is
a4.
putting pressure on the d6 pawn, so it can be... Black seems to be moving back and forth with knight g6, knight f4, because he has only seconds. So now he's king c3, now he's going to move his rook, I guess, back and forth. White has a clear advantage, strong advantage at this point. And you see the good chair.
It's all about the chair. The orange
And,
chair.
It seems he feels really comfortable now. Not only on the chair, but I think in his game, rook g7 And knight will be going to f5. But it's definitely, he has more seconds, so
Now white has an
Yes,
a-pass pawn, controls the b5 with rook
now
b6.
it's a b-pass pawn.
Yeah.
But it's going to be controlling rook b2, I guess. Rook b2 will be played.
Also knight
starting,
c4 will
or
come.
b7. Maybe b7 is the best.
Rook a2, look at the
Wow.
beautiful move, sacrificing the rook in case of rook takes a2, b7.
But okay,
Did he miss
it's
this
missed
though?
it.
He
It's
missed it. Oh no, the rook catches the pawn now. Oh no! Rook a2 was a very tricky move, but it fires back. And resignation. Whoa! Alexander
What a
Grishuk, let's show it
blunder.
one more
What a
time.
blunder.
Rook a2.
What a blunder. Wanted to be clever, but actually too clever.
It would have been a beautiful move, but it did not work because of knight e2 check. Rook a2, the idea is rook takes a2, b7. No
but
piece can
yeah, I
catch
mean,
the
this
pawn.
this was a stupid decision actually. Sorry, but no, because he had more time.
Yeah.
Few seconds. So if in this position, instead of playing rook a2, I mean, this is what happens when you get the temptation to play beautiful. I mean, knight c4, even though it's not so clear whether he can win, though, because king d7. But he had few moves ago. He had a fantastic position. I mean, in this position back here, it is clear that here he should have played rook b2 probably, or rook c6, knight c4 in this position, for example. I mean, he had just a killing game. So this is very painful. This was definitely a crucial game for the outcome of the tournament, I think.
Yes, and it's very
Because
painful
now
to...
Aronian has 4 points, or
Yeah, let
what
me
is the
check. I
score?
will not add up the numbers
Yeah.
myself. 3.5 points for Levon Aronian, then he takes the lead since Maxim Vachier-Lagrave has just lost to
Lost,
Fabiano
yeah.
Caruana. Magnus Carlsen started a winning streak. His last 2 games have been won, and that gives him 2.5 points, as well as Yu Yang on 2.5, and Ding Liren. Grishuk with this loss.
Yeah,
he
this
could have had
was-
2.5 points. That changes the whole cross table. He would have been fighting for the 3rd place or 2nd place, and now he is just at the very bottom of the standings
Yeah.
on 8th place.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this was a serious, unexpected blunder. And after king b3, I thought at first that it's only a draw with perpetual check,
Yes,
but
me too.
actually,
I thought it was a
actually
draw.
it got even. I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if Levon would think the same, but move by move, he realized that actually he can even win the game, and so it's yeah, there are some blunders and turning points in different games. So what happened in the other games? Magnus won against Anand.
Yes, this is the
So
final
this,
position we saw.
Yeah, then Aronian won against Grishuk. Then we have Wesley So against Yu Yanji. It was a draw. It looks a pretty balanced end game.
The only
We've
draw.
seen Fabiano Caruana beating the leader of the tournament. And then we've seen, well, actually that was the final position where Mamedyarov resigned against Ding Liren in this game. So let's see how Magnus won. He played, I see again, the Pirt's defense. Actually, he played d5.
Oh,
Wow. Knight e4, knight e2. I think nobody played against me something like that, d5.
it's
you
a
know?
very offbeat variation.
Very strange. f6. Wow, looks quite bizarre. It's
creative, but for blitz?
Again, I can say that it's a blitz. It's a blitz opening. c5. Well, it looks quite strange to give away a pawn on g5 at such an early stage of the game. Actually, here I would maybe consider long castle. Queen b6, queen d2, c takes, bishop f5. It does not seem to have too much compensation at first. Of course, the big question is how white would be developing. And again, long castle. But it seems like white has a pawn up.
Yeah.
And black has the bishop pair, which is not so powerful in such a close position.
Black is ahead in
Four.
development, and we shall see what happens to the white king. It's still on
Well,
e1.
this is the problem for white, that black is threatening with bishop h4, so white had to play h4 to stop that. Now on the other side, Magnus is playing, and now he's bringing his bishop to b4, so this can be actually now quite unpleasant for white, this pin. King f2, rook f8, rook h3, bishop b5. Still, it's not clear how good compensation black can have here. I mean,
I wonder where the tables turned in this game. So with Vishy having an extra pawn and his king is, it's funny on f2, but it's okay. There's no attack.
Well,
knight takes
tactics,
d4,
yeah.
tactics.
yeah, so here he blundered, and actually we can see that it's beautiful, this geometry, that there is a double pin. So if black would be playing rook d3, then the black can be taking because of these two pins. So the king actually was not able to get away to safety, and the bishop is an f1. So actually white was behind in development during the whole game. So somehow this is why he had a problem, it seems. And after this, knight d4, bishop c5. So this pin is very, very unhappy for white.
Yeah, now that Magnus has won back the pawn and his pieces are still extremely active.
But even here, not necessarily white should lose this game at all, because it's only material equal.
Yeah, and opposite colored bishops.
Yeah, and the bishop is not necessarily stands worse. Bishop, I mean, the pawns are on the white squares, so it's not so obvious. Well, g5 is something that I might be not so happy, but probably Vishy thought that he's not worse at all. I mean, later on, white, for example, without queens, white would be able to push h5 and have great things.
His problem was that he didn't
But I
manage to
think-
trade queens.
Probably there was some more blunders, I have the feeling, that now because of the f4,
Bishop
f4,
b6.
yeah, e1, and the queen was attacking both. I think after bishop b6, white had to go here, queen d4 again, and now already
Yes.
the black squares is deadly for
The bishop
white.
is hanging on queen f2.
Oh.
Oh, bishop a5, beautiful. That
Deflection.
was the moment when Magnus
Yeah.
Carlsen wins the game. This heavy piece endgame is completely lost. White is getting mated.
Yeah, so basically Magnus gave away a pawn. He took his chances. I think he played very fast and intuitively.
Brave and bold, it may not have
Yeah,
been enough
and
compensation, but in blitz games,
In blitz game, he was attacking on both sides, and Vishy slipped in this game.
and that gives him 2.5 points.
Magnus won 2 games in a row, and now we are round 5, which after they have a little more bigger break,
And
the players.
Even we will have a break after
Yeah,
the
short
next
break.
round. Then let's just bring up one more time the standings after 4 rounds of the Blitz tournament here in Stavanger, the first day of the Norway Chess Tournament, 7th edition. The leader is one more time Levon Aronian. He has bounced back since the previous leader, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, lost to Fabiano Caruana. So Maxime and Levon are on the top of the standings at the moment. Levon is going to face Fabiano in the next round, and Maxime is going to play against Vishy. Which game would you like to choose, Judith? Aronian versus Caruana or Vachier against Anand?
Let's see Vachier against Anand.
Okay.
Let's see how.
We have been following Levon's game in a couple of rounds, so I think it's fair that we give a chance to Maxime. Because of my misunderstanding of the result in the first round, we didn't know he was leading, so apologies one more time to the Frenchman and all the fans of the Frenchman. He was on 3 out of 3, the only player to start with 3 out of 3.
And he's already focused, I see. He's already at the table, at the board.
He's the only one at the
Being
moment.
ready.
3+2 is a usual time control, the blitz format that the players have basically competed with in the World
Yes.
Blitz Championships, and most of the blitz events use this, except for the Grand Chess Tour. I was comparing the Ivory Coast Grand Chess Tour, so that's 5 minutes, and there's a delay. With the delay system, it's
Yeah,
a bit
that's tricky. Yeah.
so that doesn't count as experience, but 3+2 is something they are used to. What's going to be interesting is how they adjust to the new format, the new system that's from tomorrow in the classical games. 2 hours for each players with no increment until move 41. And then in case of a draw, we will see Armageddons. That's going to be the real experiment.
Yeah, and it will be something very new, not only for us and the public and the fans, but also for the players, which is quite unexpected after being in the field for 30 years. I mean, or 20 years. Some of the players, it's quite impressive that they have to deal with something very different than they used to. So let's see the match between Maxim and Vishy.
And let's see who will win the Blitz and if the winner will choose more whites or blacks. That's a question for the Armageddon.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a Berlin defense. It's going to be the end game. Actually, I think that it's the first time we see a Berlin defense in the Blitz tournament.
Which is great news for us.
Yeah, because you don't necessarily expect such a great, sharp situations. But of course, the Berlin had not a very good image for a long time. And there is many games won by black in this system also. Let's see, Rook E1. Of course, there are a lot of different moves for white also. White is playing knight e4 later when the rook is on e1, and actually we're seeing the knight.
He has just moved knight e4, and Vishy started thinking too. For the first time, he goes for h6.
So let's see if white is going to be playing with b3. No, he plays bishop d2, and he wants to bring his rook as fast as possible. Bishop e6. Black's plan is many times to bring his bishop to d5 to try to exchange, but at first probably he would be bringing his rook to d8, develop his piece bishop possibly to e7, or
In the
playing
Berlin,
c5.
it's always the fight of the pair of bishops versus a better pawn structure that white has, a pawn majority on the king side. It's 4 versus 3.
Well, now that
e4.
the rook is on e1, this is why it's possible that actually the e5 pawn is not really hanging, because black would get in trouble.
Yeah, we can
with the
just show
pin.
it if you would like to make a move that knight takes e5 is not an option with the king on e8.
Well, for example, here knight e5, probably f4 would be coming, and then, for example, there is a mate.
Beautiful.
if we are fair here.
Yeah, knight d6, knight f6,
seeing.
both discovered checks would have been
So
the
there are
same
many
mate.
reasons why you cannot take on e5, but black played bishop d5. This is quite natural. Knight g3.
Heading towards f5. Also
Yeah,
f4.
white's plan is f4, f5, also e6 time to time is possible, but now I see knight h4 was played by black, and now the g2 pawn is attacked, even though I'm not sure that it's not possible to give, but it seems that Maxim doesn't like it and he went back to e4. But I doubt that Vishy would go back. He went rook d8, because for the moment knight is standing quite good on h4. Usually you can't afford giving two tempes like this. So
Yes,
this
knight
was-
g3, knight e4 is something that Maxim will be regretting.
On the other hand, after bishop c3, black went back to g6
Ah.
because now it's important the f4 square. That's what he wants to control. Either to go with the knight, but just to make sure that white is not able to play f4 for the moment.
It's an interesting strategic battle for the squares, the f5, f4 squares, knight f5 is on the board, and knight f4, both knights have landed on those important squares. Rook a to d1, and the knight goes back to e6.
Yeah, of course, this f5 knight is disturbing. Now it seems like a4 on the queen side. White wants to go a5, probably b3.
Black couldn't develop the f8 bishop because of the knight on f5. He defends the
H5.
g7 pawn with knight e6 and then goes for this
Well,
kingside
probably
expansion.
black wants to go after h5, go h4 and rook g5. That's why white went g3, but I'm not sure it's not what happens if bishop takes e4? Not yet.
He's preparing for it in a way
Yeah,
that
now
bishop
black is
takes
threatening
e4.
to take on e4.
Earlier,
and then
bishop
on-
takes e4, rook takes d8 would have been a check. King d8, marching
Yes,
to
now
the
to
queen
c8.
side. And white doubles rooks on the d file. That
Black
creates
is
a
going
pin.
king c8 and knight e3. Ah, this is something unpleasant happened for black. Now
Yeah.
it was kind of a blunder, isn't
You
it?
can't move the bishop away and you can't protect it either. h4 to create some counter chances, but white is going to win a pawn on d5 even if he
It's
just reacts first on the king side.
Yes, but it's not so easy to react. King g2, king h2. But after that, I
Trade
have the
on
feeling
g3.
that maybe black will be sacrificing. Bishop takes e4, rook d7, bishop c5. I would possibly go here and also knight g5 in the next move. Can black do something like this?
This is certainly what Vishy is calculating. He's about to reach for the bishop. Bishop takes
And
c4.
he's taking on e4, rook d7, bishop c5. This is what we're having on the board.
An exchange up for white, but black has the pair of bishops and an initiative on the king side.
Oops, now white is in big trouble. Knight h4, because after h4 there would be a very nice mate. Actually, I can show on h4, knight f3, king h3, bishop f5. But let's see the game. Let's go back to the game. Knight h4. Wow, bishop d6, trapping the rook on d7.
Oh. E takes d6 and king takes d7, bishop g7.
Yes,
The
but bishop
game is
g7.
heating up.
Yeah, actually white is doing quite well. So black will be fighting for a draw. Well, the c2 pawn is hanging. Also knight f3 can be played later to exchange and have the different color bishop. Or even going back bishop to d5.
Maxim took on c7 with a check and then played rook to d2. A trade on f3, opposite colored bishops.
Well, it's not so funny for black in any case. g4, I would be going, and king g3. Because white will not be able to avoid the exchange of rooks. But still, of course, it's white he played g4, rook e2 takes, king g3 gonna be played.
So pawn up for Maxim, but with opposite colored bishops is not that simple, even though he has an h pass pawn. Trade on b6 and king to d7.
Well, king reaches to e6 and it should be a draw. Black will be putting his bishop on d1 and c2. So to stop bishop, bishop d1, c3, probably b5 will be played later, of course.
Yes, the rook trade was important by Vishy with a pawn down in an opposite colored bishop endgame. He has way better chances without the rooks.
He played c5. h4, b5 is played, and then c4. Well, probably b3, or it's not clear why black allowed.
Yes, I'm puzzled why he went for this,
But now his king goes to f7.
which is good. Good news for Vishy. That helps to stop the white pawn.
And then b3. What about g5? Oh no, it should be a draw. Yeah, black is capturing the pawn on c4 and white is not able to...
h7 to try to force the bishop take it, but instead Vishy
And then
goes
he's having
for
the
king
c
g7.
pawn. King g8. King g8 would have been with the tempo.
It's only 6 seconds left for the Frenchman. And a minute
Well, is he
for
going to lose on
Vishy.
time?
He's very close to it, unless the time is stuck. No, 5 seconds. He is
Now
down
8
to
seconds. Yeah, he's gaining.
2 second
2
increment
seconds.
is there, but there's not much time left for Maxim. He's collecting all the pawns he can, and then
draw.
a handshake.
Yeah.
Because the black stops the white pawns on light squares, even though it was 2 pawns
Yeah.
up. You cannot do anything about the blockade on c6 and b5, so this is a draw position.
Black is just going to do nothing but passing on this diagonal f1, a6, and white simply cannot make any progress.
Let's see quickly if Levon Aronian is still playing, the leader of the tournament, against Fabiano Caruana. Oh, that was
Still,
a draw.
Grishchuk is
Okay,
playing.
so Aronian
Ding
made a
Duran.
draw, but Ding Girshuk is a game that's still being played at this very moment.
8 seconds to against 10 seconds, and they just agreed to a draw as well.
Okay, but
So
Yulian
we
Yilmazov, oh, we are
see-
catching a handshake there. The result is
The result,
Mamedov has won.
yes.
Let's just go
Yeah,
through the
Bishop
results
endgame.
then. Aronian Caruana is a draw. Ding Grishuk was another Drew.
Dingrishchuk draw.
And Carlsen So is a draw. Wow, this was the most solid of rounds. It goes to show that they have a break after this round, and so do we. So we will go for a short break, but before we do that, let's just have one last look at the standings. Levon Aronian is still leading after 5 rounds, 4 more rounds to be played. Maxim Vacheslav right behind him, and Ding Liren, Magnus Carlsen on 3 points. Anything can still happen with 4 rounds to go, but Aronian has clearly been in a good shape, and the Frenchman too has been showing good form, which is good news also for the rest of the event, not just the Blitz.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had some fun games, some blunders too.
Yeah, it's a very exciting format, and from tomorrow even better with the Armageddon. We are going to go for a quick break, and then we are back for the remaining 4 rounds of the Blitz event at the Altibox Norway Chess Super Tournament. See you very shortly.
Hvis dere kan bli forelsket i New York, så faller dere også for HTH sin nyhet New York. Med de svarte metallrammene og det industrielle utseendet. Da er det bra at vi har ham her. Han hjelper dere. Og hvis dere ikke vil montere det selv, så har vi også ham her. Og før dere vet ordet av det, har dere et nytt kjøkken. I kult design og med smarte detaljer. Smart, ikke sant? Det er kjøkkenkjærlighet som holder.
Da er vi klar.
5 sekunder. E4.
D6.
D4.
D5.
Springer C3. Springer slår E4. Dronning D8 sjakk. Løper G5 sjakk.
Konge C7.
Løper D8 matt.
Over og ut.
Hvis dere kan bli forelsket i New York, så faller dere også for HTH sin nyhet New York. Med de svarte metallrammene og det industrielle utseendet. Da er det bra at vi har ham her. Han hjelper dere. Og hvis dere ikke vil montere det selv, så har vi også ham her. Og før dere vet ordet av det, har dere et nytt kjøkken. I kult design og med smarte detaljer. Smart, ikke sant? Det er kjøkkenkjærlighet som holder.
Welcome back to the broadcast of the Altibox Norway Chess Super Tournament. Today is the beginning of the 7th edition with an opening Blitz tournament. Judith, how do you see the game so far? We have witnessed 5 rounds of very fast-speed chess.
Oh, it's hard to follow for me also. There are so many games, some blunders, some funny ideas and turning points. Well, I think it's only for fun mainly. I think, especially in this tournament, that they are not even sure which color they want to choose.
Yeah, normally we were discussing this, that the aim of the Blitz tournament is to determine the starting rank in the classical tournament. Normally in a super tournament you would want to have more whites, but what's the case here with the new system that if there's a draw, the players will need to play an Armageddon game. After the classical game being drawn, there will be an Armageddon with the same color. So what do you think, Judith? Would you choose more whites? Would you prefer more blacks?
I think I would choose black because I was a quite kind of a fast player. So I would think that the intuition is more counts in the Armageddon, and at least if it's a draw, you're a winner. So probably I would go with the black pieces more.
That's what the world champion said as well at the press conference, that he's more comfortable with the black pieces in Armageddon. Other players, on the other hand, for instance, Levon Aronian, they say, well, having more white, of course, and then you have the upper hand. So it's interesting what will happen. The winner of the Blitz tournament will get to choose, but the rest of the players will receive the highest available number.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. I think now already the players are ready for round 6, it seems.
And we're going to focus on the game of the leader, Levon Aronian, versus the second place player, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave.
Let's see how it will be. They are both very focused. We can say that it might be the crucial game of the final outcome of the tournament, right?
I agree with you. One of these players is likely to win the tournament.
Let's see,
E4.
it's going to be Samurai Lopez, clearly. A6, Bishop A4, Knight F6, castles. Let's see what Levon is up to now. B5. After D3, Bishop B3.
Nothing new under the sun for now.
Castles. So let's see if A4 or Knight C3. D6. Well, this is a kind of a solid system in this Rai Lopez line. Of course, black is usually aiming to go to G4, so that's why, again, we can only say that H3 is kind of advised move. But here A4 is also possible, as what was played by Maxime. B4, knight will be going to D5, I guess. Knight A5. All of this is theory, of course. We'll see if Maxime will be moving his bishop to A2, or he will be going something knight capture.
He does take on F6 and then
Bishop D5,
Bishop D5.
C6 is expected.
So the idea of Bishop D5 is to provoke C6 and then he can drop back the bishop.
But it's a good question. Black can also go Rook B8 easily. C6 is not even necessarily a must, but that's what happened. And then C5. So probably White will be moving back his bishop to D5.
It's an interesting part of this kind of variations, always the Bishop D5 and dropping back, and then you have
Or
the
knight
D5
D2,
square
knight
again if
D2.
you want to.
Well, yeah, these squares are quite weak for Black, but he can play, for example, Bishop E6, which he actually did. Takes these structures. Levon has a huge experience in these kind of structures, as he's a big E5 player since his youth, I think. the first game I played against him in 2001 in the European Championship.
Yeah, basically we can say that he was born as an E5 player.
Well, he was not that young. Well, he was 18 or something, I think. So the idea is for white knight is on a5 is not doing much, but it controls the c4 square for the moment. But he went back knight c6, trying to get to d4, putting pressure on c2. Also, black can go rook a7 later and try to drop his rook to f7. Bishop b2 was played.
It's a logical way to develop, even if the bishop is not as active on b2 as you would normally wish it was.
Well, mainly it's connecting the rooks, that's the main idea, and also to cover the d4 square. These are the main...
a5 by 11.
Yes, because otherwise white would be able to play a5 in a later stage, so...
It's making sure that he's fixing the pawn structure on the queen side.
It's going to be some maneuvering. He wants to go king g2, possibly f3, doubling the rook on f2 and on the f file. So, and in the right moment to play knight c4, because later on the d6 pawn and the a5 pawn could be attacked at the same time from c4. And of course, it's always a question whether is it good for black to play d5 at some point, which is not clear. Usually black likes to wait for playing d5.
That's a very committal move. Once you push the d pawn, the e5
Yes,
and
absolutely.
c5 pawns become vulnerable.
King h8. Yeah, this is a move which is quite okay, I think, and black can be even sometimes playing his pawns h5, g5 later on, really bringing his rook a7 and to the 7th rank. But let's say queen d7. So black wants to go
The traditional way
rook
to e8.
And because knight b6 was threatening for a fork, h4. Now white, I think, wants to go h5 to gain some space.
It's only a minute left for Levon Aronian, and there's some pressure that the Frenchman is creating on the king side. He can also bring the king to g2, and then a rook on h1 can appear.
For now, actually, white has the double of the time,
Yes.
more or less.
Very
roughly.
good time management. Maxime has been very quick in all the games that we have witnessed.
Okay, so now black played queen c7 in order to defend the a5 pawn. So this way he freed his knight, and that's why knight d4 is an option. And now white has to decide whether is he going to capture on d4. If he is going to capture on d4, then c takes d4, and then the c2 pawn can be under attack if black goes d5.
Yes, that's a backward pawn. So instead
that's
of the
why-
capture, he plays knight to e3.
Knight e3 defends the c2 pawn and keeps the tension. Though I think, I'm wondering if bishop g5 is possible now. I'm thinking of bishop g5, as it is not possible to take because of knight f3. So white would be taking, oops, sorry. So queen d8 with the idea of bishop g5 takes. And now the question is, with which pawn is he going to be taking? But
Levon has
C is-
chosen the c
yeah,
pawn
C
to
is
open the c5.
more logical. And now I don't know if bishop h6 or bishop f6 defending the, but he goes bishop h6. It can be very unpleasant for white to have this diagonal for the bishop at a later stage when black queen will be going back to c7 and black wants to go d5. So white will have to be careful and on this. I wonder if f4 will be played in this game sometime, but I think it's...
Still over a minute for Maxime and 22 seconds for Levon.
But now he's going to be speeding up. So f4 came,
Yeah.
takes. I think black will double. He went rook e7 with the idea to play sometimes rook f7.
And
rook
Maxime
f2.
goes rook f2 to also be able to double rooks and protect the c2 pawn at the same time. Rook ef1.
Yeah, now the question is he has to defend his pawns because that's why rook f6 happened, because the queen is defending the d6 and the a5, and now the rook is defending the e6. e5, takes. And now it can be dangerous for black because knight will be occupying the d6 square with knight d6, and also the e6 pawn can be vulnerable here.
The rooks are being traded on the f file.
Takes, it's going to be takes, and queen f. Well, now it's a question how he can
Queen to e8.
But now a5 is hanging. Of course, bishop e3 in exchange. There will be an opportunity to give a check.
Geez,
But
Levon has
maybe-
made a move with 1 second on the clock. It's a 2-second increment, but he was
But
about
knight
to
c4,
flag.
Knight c6. Now queen h4 is unpleasant, but he's going king f1, king a g8, and the question is what happens after a5.
Oh, Levon is shaking his head. He's
Yes,
clearly not
because-
happy with how the outcome.
Bishop
went.
d2, a6. He's going to give a check. Queen a1, but knight e7. And mate is threatening.
Yeah, how do you stop the pawn
And he
handshake? Maxime takes the lead from Levon Aronian. Levon was leading with half a point, and with this victory, the Frenchman is now the sole leader.
Yeah, it was a very interesting that in this in the middle game, first of all, that Vacher made a huge time advantage, very
Yes.
fast somehow he could manage that, and then at this point where he played f4, things turned upside down for Levon.
I think we
This
should
game.
go to
What
the
happened with the
Mamedjarov
others?
Carlsen game because if I'm correct, it's still being played. That's the last game of the round. That's not finished yet. Magnus
Yeah.
was in a worse position earlier, and now
Now he's a piece up, but White has 2 pawns for the piece, and now he tries to get out of the perpetual check.
whoa, that was a rook blunder, giving a check with d6. The rook hanging on d8.
Well, when you have 9 seconds on the clock, you make
Oh,
things like that.
ouch! There's a second rook blunder by Mamedjarov.
But actually, it was. It seems to me that it was kind of over after h4 at this stage of the game.
Still, what
So
a
it was a
painful
blunder.
finish.
Yeah. Rooks are not favorites of Mamedjarov at this point, is it?
2 times we
Yeah.
were saying that it
It's
doesn't
like
happen
blackout.
often to elite grandmasters. All these grandmasters basically have had 2,800 rating at some point, and he blundered twice already. His
Yes,
rook.
because I think why it happened is that they had this move repetition of rook d7, rook d. He was going back and forth, and for some reason, he
thought that the
he
king
thought
was
that
not
king
close.
goes back to g7, and then he wanted to continue it with d6, but even then he would be lost. So
Wow.
actually, it is a blunder, but it wouldn't change the outcome of the game if he plays anything else. So actually, Magnus won 3 in a row, didn't he?
He had a draw in between, but yes, he won 3 of the last 4 games, 3.5
okay.
points out of
Yes.
the last 4 games. I think in this game, if you go
Yes.
through the earlier moves, as far as I could see earlier, he was defending a worse position. So Mamedjarov had the upper hand, but then he went to
Again, he had this fianchetto
Aggressive.
bishop with the black pieces, Magnus. And there was an exchange of pawns. That's a funny route for the rook. C5, A5, A1 exchange. Yeah, it seems White had a very comfortable position. Very comfortable position. Knight B1.
interesting knight maneuver.
Knight maneuver to D2, so he wants to reach to C4 later.
C4 to put pressure on D6.
No, I think Black is doing fine. He was completely fine. Actually, in Blitz game, it is maybe even dangerous for White. And I think here he started to play for a win. And by exchanging the bishop, the black bishop, it's well, of course, here Rook C6. I'm not saying that necessarily so optimistic for Black at this point.
Queen
but,
A7 also looks very tempting to take the A6 pawn.
Yeah, but I also like this with Black when you
Because
can
of
go
the
queen.
king side.
Yeah, there is always some tactical issues. I mean, it's even though Black has 2 pawns, gave up 2 pawns, he has counter chances. I mean, for Blitz, it's you can't say that it's
Yeah.
over. But
Even
here
with
it seems
the
that
double heavy
again,
pieces on the
it's
sevens.
ooh, this
Rook takes
looks. But
D6.
there was some blunder here, I think.
He gives up the D2 knight.
No, actually, he had
Well,
no choice left.
Yeah, he can't
Probably
defend
already
it.
f4 was somehow he was too optimistic here.
Yes,
it seems.
f4 already leaves weaknesses,
Yeah.
and after rook c7, knight c5,
Yeah, after rook d2, there was no, it seems, no other.
both the knight and the
Option.
bishop are hanging on the second rank, and queen a5 was not a possibility.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean,
It was a complex
Magnus,
position where
yeah, Magnus was
obviously.
fighting, took his chances.
Yeah. All I saw earlier while we were checking the other game was the engine bar showing that it was advantage for white, but
Okay.
it's the kind of position, as you
Yes.
said, in blitz game you would take black even if it's a pawn down because you have the initiative and there are many tricky moves in the position. Grishuk has won against Yu Yang-yi.
Yeah, it was not even such a long game. Let's see, it was a queen's gambit, I see. And actually, he kept the pawn, it seems. That after, yeah, it was just, he kept the pawn. So there was a wrong opening for Yu Yang-yi. And at the end, it was the pin which made it over. That was simply a wrong idea, yeah. And
What about Anand So?
let's see.
It's a draw.
And then so, yeah, it was not such a long game. Look, 26 move.
26
The other
moves.
one is also 26.
And the last game that we haven't checked is
This was a
between-
French. Actually, it was sharp.
Oh.
It was a sharp line. This I was playing with the white pieces back some time ago.
Yes?
Yeah, but actually here, why didn't he go queen c3? And there is this trick.
Because of the
That-
pin.
Yeah, because now white
Yeah.
has to go bishop d2 and then
Queen
queen
d3.
d3 is possible. But, well, it's, yeah, on the other hand, you gain back the d4 pawn, so it's not so obvious.
He wasn't so happy about the endgame, so he went
just
knight
developed.
e7.
Yeah, I mean, the pawn structure here in these French lines, it is quite difficult. It can be difficult to play. And actually, I like it for white pretty much. White has a nice advantage, I think. But it seems like Vichy was not so optimistic. And then here already he went for different color bishop. Yeah, they were kind of solid.
Balanced
Solid
game.
for a blitz game.
It is very solid
But
for a
probably
blitz
white
game.
simply offered the draw and black took it, accepted it.
Yeah, even the players are getting tired. What about the Caruana Ding game? That was another draw. I don't know how that game ended in a draw, if it was a more fighting game.
Well, again, a different color bishop, but let's see how the Rai Lopez was also 5d3, bishop c5, d6, castle, knight f1. White is keeping back his castling and regrouping his knight first to g3, bishop e6, bishop c2. Of course, eventually white wants to go d4, but definitely not before castling. And actually, black took. Actually, I think black has a nice position. White still out of. He's
Yeah.
not castling yet. It looks not nice.
It doesn't look
first.
nice at all. Black was about to
Not
push
at all.
e4 and still goes for e4.
Yeah, but it seemed like black is just simplifying and it's not giving real anything special for black. But so it seems like everything was exchanged. Solid game. A5. This is again a very nice simplification by black to exchange these pawns and not giving any opportunity for white. Actually. Well, yeah, simplifying everything, and then, yeah, rook d7 was an important move. That's clear. Actually, white won a pawn, but it's not enough in such a positions because
Yeah,
the
double
bishop
pawns
pair.
and the pair of bishops.
Yeah, and then bishop took c3, and then, well, this was important. Otherwise, this would be a blunder, I guess. Yeah, this would be losing a piece. And then the c4 bishop would be falling off, but then black just played this, and it's a different color bishop. It's no real chances. So how we are doing all the games
All the games are finished. We are about to start round 7. With this draw, Fabiano Caruana is still on 50%. Ding Liren has +1, that is 3.5 points out of 6. He is now going to face the leader of the tournament, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. I think that's a game we could choose, since we haven't talked much about the Chinese player. He's the world number 3, Ding Liren. Also the first Chinese grandmaster to cross the rating barrier at 2,800.
Though Carlsen Grischuk game must be also a lot of fun.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a big temptation.
Now I'm actually that I'm looking at the pairings. Carlsen Grischuk. Oof, I think we should switch to Carlsen
Maybe
Grischuk.
we should go for that.
We haven't seen Magnus's games in the last rounds too, because he wasn't among the leaders. He's still not among the leaders. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has 4.5 points out of 6, and half a point behind him is Levon Aronian and Magnus Carlsen. So I think, yes, Carlsen Grischuk will be our choice, the main court, for round 7. 3 more rounds to go, and the Frenchman has taken the lead by beating the Armenian grandmaster. Aronian has been leading before.
Let's see really what's going to happen in this game. They are already getting ready.
So it's going to be the orange chair versus the more modern height adjustable office chair. Yes, the big chair versus the small chair. If we look at the height of the players, though, Grischuk must be the tallest among the participants.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe that's why he needs a small chair. He's
he's-
so tall.
He's just getting ready for his next game. And he just won in his last game.
He did. And if we look at the players in terms of their Blitz achievements, Magnus Carlsen has won the World Blitz Championship 4 times, which is really impressive, but
Yeah.
Grischuk won 3 times. So that's very close. These 2 players have collected gold medals at World Blitz Championship, same time control, 3+2.
Yes. 3+2 is, it is very fast. It is very fast. When I was a kid, I was really playing so many Blitz games, but in those times you didn't have the
No increment.
digital club, no
Yeah.
increment, so it was quite different.
When the
And-
increment started appearing, did you still prefer the 5-0 or do you like the increment in Blitz?
In some ways, it's just completely different. You know, I
You
got
can't
used
flag
to
the opponent.
Yeah, it's in one way it's good, in other hand it's not good.
If you have an advantage, it's good because no one can play for time.
Yeah, but of course, unfairness can also be part of the game when you don't have additional time. And actually, 2 seconds is exactly that time that when you have a huge advantage in material that you simply going to win. You cannot be flagged, and this is the reason why we have 2 seconds. But it is always very interesting to see different time controls because you have to adjust from one game to another. So let's see E4.
Round 7 begins. This is with 3 more rounds to go. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is the leader, but Magnus Carlsen is half a
French.
point behind. Oh, F4 against the French.
Magnus is definitely taking his blitz repertoire, but actually it's going to be transposing, I think. Probably he's going to go C3 and D4, and we're just transposing.
To the advanced
To-
variation of
yeah.
the French.
Well, now it's a question whether can black play D4 to stop white playing from D4, or he will allow white, and of course he will. He plays knight H6. White is going to play D4, knight F5.
Knight A3 goes for this maneuver to bring the knight to
Okay.
C2.
Okay. Well, black can also, well, yeah, it's interesting what will happen with the center. Also knight H4, I don't know if probably it would be too early to play knight H4 at this stage. This is possible. D4 is possible, even C4 is possible, but then probably it's simply D4 and the pawns will be exchanged on the C and the D pawn.
It's only move 7
Queen
and the
B6,
players are taking their
also
time already.
possibility. Just another alternative. Yeah, black should be probably preparing against D4.
It has just been played by
Knight H4.
Magnus, the pawn
No.
push.
Bishop E7, D4. Queen b6, well, very typical in the French that you put pressure over the d4 pawn as much as you can. Bishop d3.
And Grishuk
C
takes on d4.
d4, probably c takes d4. Knight b4 or bishop d7. Well, probably we will see again a long castle thing, or black is planning to play rook c8. But I wouldn't be surprised on a long castle story. Can black take on d4?
Now with the king on g1, that's a question.
Takes, bishop e3, bishop c5.
Is this a bluff?
No, probably b4.
And then it's trouble.
This is the trick, and after knight c2, bishop
Bishop
takes
takes
c5,
c5.
and then the knight is going to be trapped.
Yeah. It's not a bluff, it's just a very good move, castling.
So knight d4 is not possible at this stage, which is very important news for white.
Knight b4 by Grishuk.
Yeah, to eliminate the c2 knight from defending the d4, knight takes b4. Probably bishop b4 will be the move. Or queen b4. Because after bishop b4, yeah, bishop b4, a3 will be the move, I guess. Queen takes b4. I'm curious now whether a3, b4, or bishop takes f5. Bishop d2 is also possible, and then b4. I mean, there is a good chance that the d4 pawn will be sacrificed for initiative.
And Magnus was about to reach for the king to play king h1 so that there's no checks once the pawn is taken on d4.
And h5 instantly was played.
With the idea of h4, knight g3
yeah, sometimes it's against g4, but I think I have the feeling that he wants to go later h4 and potential sacrifices on knight g3.
This is a very exciting position. Black's king is still in the middle of the board, but he's already aiming for the h1 king.
Yeah, well, actually, king h1, I think the reason was that white might be going a3, and after queen b6 and knight d4, knight cannot take on f3 with a check after the white pins on e3. But let's see after h5 how Magnus wants to continue the game. Is he going to take? I don't know. I don't think it would be so good to take. It wouldn't, or say it wouldn't give advantage for white taking on f5, because black would be extremely stable with his bishop on e6, and the pawn structure is extremely tough. And actually he took it.
He does take on f5.
He did take it, so I'm curious how he wants to move on. Also, bishop can go to b5, so rook c8 also covering the c5.
a4, rook c8.
So he wants to go, I think, with some bishop d2. I know, b3 and bishop a3. This is his idea. Yeah. Yeah, because it's not tactical anymore. It becomes very positional, and it seems that he has a time advantage as well.
Yes, it's a minute for Magnus and, well, similar. Is that 30? No, 34 seconds for Grishuk. I thought it was 54. Apologies.
But queen e1 is I think is a very nice move, avoiding queen exchange, because definitely he wants to exchange the rook, the black bishop, which he did, queen b2, rook a1, and then later on he wants to go queen to g3 and to attack on the black squares.
And he doesn't mind the b3 pawn because of rook b1. Rook c2 was played by Grishuk, and now queen c3.
Yeah, queen g3 obviously. And now how can black, will he play rook h6? g6. But okay, the black squares are really, really vulnerable for black. But probably black goes bishop e6, king d7. Now he went queen c6, defending the f6
And king f8, heading towards
h3,
g7.
king f8. At one point, e6
E6.
will be there.
It's in the air.
No,
it's always
in the
there.
air. It's in there.
To free the e5 square, sacrifice for the knight.
Well, for the moment, probably black would be...
It's very tempting, and that's for
Rook
sure
E1.
an idea that Magnus is looking at. He's trading queens. Wait a second.
Ah, he went queen f6.
Yes, instead of e6. Interesting choice by the world champion. 14 seconds left for Alexander Grishuk, 40 for Magnus Carlsen.
Taking real initiative, b5, rook c7.
Oh.
It is very much Magnus's style.
The rook defense from b6, but that's an active rook versus passive rook
Wow, this
situation.
is very unpleasant for black. King g7, king g7, knight d3. He's regrouping it to c5.
Yeah, the knight
Or
dominates the
even to
bishop.
b4.
It's all the white pieces are better than their black counterparts. Beautiful.
Beautiful
Gives
play.
up the b5 pawn to push a5.
And it's going to be the passed pawn. Actually, he went rook c6.
And the rook took on
Went rook
b7.
c6, rook b7, rook c8. Not very good. It's very passive.
It's 4 seconds left for Grishuk.
Well, the game is over. a6, king h6, a7. They took the b4 pawn. So the pawn, passed pawn on a6 is going to, and rook b8.
Trade on e8
Rook
and rook
b6.
b6 first.
Beautiful game, beautifully.
Very well played by the
Well,
world
Yeah,
champion.
it's incredible. He has such a feeling at some point, you see. If we go back for a moment after king f8, he just went queen c6.
Yeah,
and
queen f6 to trade the queens
It-
and,
it
and
just-
for this endgame.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just what a switch.
It was a masterpiece, an
Exceptional.
endgame masterclass by
Yeah,
Magnus
beautiful,
Carlsen. But we need to
beautiful.
catch up with some of
Yeah.
the games that are still being played.
We see Dingley and Vacher, they are still fighting, and some interesting endgame. Vacher is seemingly having passed pawn, actually two passed pawns, B ends and D passed pawn. Actually,
Dingley
he
ran
just took a
two.
piece. So
Yeah.
actually, black should be winning this game as well.
And that's great news for the French Grandmaster, who was the sole leader before this round, and with the victory he will still be half a point ahead of Magnus Carlsen.
Well, they are the top two blitz players in the world right
Yeah,
now, right?
they are proving it,
So-
that rating is for something. 2,923, that's Magnus Carlsen's Blitz rating, and 2,921, Maxim Vachilegrov, 2 points behind the world champion in Blitz.
And now we see that actually it's not so easy for black to win at all. So he's
Some technical difficulties because White still has plenty of pawns.
well, maybe not anymore.
But the D2 pawn will decide
because
the
now,
game.
Yeah, the knight will be. Oops. Actually, was it the time what decided or? But the game is over and Maxim won.
Yes, the D2
Maxim
pawn
won.
will win
Yeah, what
the
happened
knight
then?
as well.
We still have games running. Fabiano against Yu Yanji with white. Well, actually, it seems that rook a3 now check. I think this can be dangerous for white. But what is black thinking, having so short time?
Yes, 5 seconds versus 10 seconds.
King g6, f6. Well, knight c5, king f5. It is a very unpleasant endgame.
2 seconds for Yu
white,
Yang.
2
He's gonna make a
seconds,
move with no
4
time.
seconds. But his king is getting further away and he's losing his pawn on f3. So this is something that black is going to win unless he's losing too much time. But this has to be a win already for black. Yeah, he's playing fast, but of course we have 6 seconds against 7 seconds.
Anything can
So
still
anything
happen.
can still happen.
Knight
There's
d6,
always
4
a
can be
blunder,
blundered.
But it would be a surprise if this would be not black who wins this game. He will cut away the king, rook on his third rank.
That will mean a +1 for Fabiano. That is 4 points out of 7 rounds.
Well, it went passive a little bit, black at this point, but it's very hard to ruin it. He goes to safety and then he wants to push the pawn, I think, eventually. But he's still going for the safety. He has only 8 seconds, 7 seconds for white.
Both
And
are down to
still
7 seconds.
Not much is really happening, actually. So white will be giving checks, and maybe he wants to go with his knight to f5 afterwards. So it would be about time to start pushing his pawns for Fabiano. He's already moved 91
Oh,
seconds. Suddenly black has less time, and they are repeating moves. It's not a good sign for the moment for Fabiano, but it's why not to push the pawn?
he's scared
Why?
of something.
Why? Actually, they're
Oof.
well.
Yeah, now it's even more difficult to push.
Well, why doesn't he want to push? Rook e8, knight e7. It's and knight c5 blunders a piece.
Oh no. But was
Or
that
lost
played?
on time, or what happened?
We need to see what happened exactly. Knight c5
Lost
would
on
pick
time.
up the
He
knight.
lost on time, Fabiano.
Fabiano lost on time, but also the piece was
Wow.
about to be picked up, but then still it's a draw.
Well, it's a draw, of course, but
Oh no.
Yeah.
Fabiano losing with 2 pawns up. He loses on time, and also he forgot about knight c5 check. So this was a disaster. He could have just started pushing the pawns earlier.
yeah, it was
Wow.
it was an
A meltdown
unexpected loss.
completely in
Yeah,
this endgame.
unexpected loss. And then there seems to be a kind of a boring draw between Aranyàn and Anand. Look at the position. It could be a
Oh.
world championship draw.
Isn't it the World Championship round? Game 9.
I mean, it is a very, very, very simplified position in the Berlin. Well, Vichy is doing this sometimes, and he's just playing his classical repertoire. Vichy plays in classical games as well, and then you can just simply end up exchanging everything and just simplifying and making a draw like this. So this was not the most important game of the round, that's clear. But Magnus May played very nicely.
That
This
was
queen
a beautiful
f6.
game.
That was a beautiful finish. What they did, right?
And the Vashir game, if we can go through the beginning, since we only caught the end game of the leader, Maxim
I see it
Vachier
was
winning
a
again.
Slav, and let's see how Maxim got the advantage with the black pieces, which is obviously not very easy in this opening. Rook c1, queen a5, knight c4, knight d5. Knights are always very good in the center. And they went for the endgame. f5 is definitely a good move. b6, it controls the c5 square, so the knight cannot go there. Even though white is controlling the c5, the c7 is protected by the rook, c8 is covered by the bishop, rook c6 is not something too dangerous for the moment, so white is trying to regroup his pieces. But knight d3 is actually strong
To get the pair of bishops,
problem,
even though it makes the
and
d3
probably
pawn
some
vulnerable.
tactical things. Rook c8, nice move. If white is taking, then black will be, I guess, just playing rook c2.
Going for the initiative with an active rook. So it's a pawn up for white, but he can't really hold on to it.
Though even, I mean, still black should actually also bishop d5.
Yeah, threatening
Maybe-
background
yeah,
ideas.
white can go f3, but it's definitely black who has great compensation. Maybe just black is going here and trying to go
Oof.
bishop b5.
Yeah.
So there are quite some tension from white side. And so white had to exchange here, and then it seems like Vachier with a nice move, bishop f8, with the idea of black is playing the e
Wow.
pawn, and then the
Take on
bishop can
a3.
be taking, opening the diagonal. But this is still not an easy endgame at all. Actually, here I would be maybe playing c4 with white. I think maybe I would have tried to play c4, and then black probably would be replacing his bishop and pushing the a pawn. But okay, white played king d1, but it's it's not simple at all. I think also here probably I would be trying out maybe c4, bishop b2. Well, it is a very complicated endgame. You can
Especially in
we can
blitz with
see
no
it.
time.
Yeah. So actually, well done by Maxim that he can focus and keep his concentration until the very end in these blitz games.
It was a 60 move endgame, and the Frenchman keeps his lead with 2 rounds to go. Maxim Vachier has 5.5 points. He's half a point ahead of the world champion Magnus Carlsen, and Levon Aronian is on third place at the moment with 4.5 points. There's a 1 point gap between the third place and the rest of the field. That's Ding Liren, Mamedyarov, and Yu Yang on 3.5.
So what do we have in the next round for round 8?
I am hoping. Oh wait, do we have the last one?
Yeah.
Oh, here. I was hoping for a Carlsen Vachier, but it's going to be in the last round, even better. So next round, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave is facing Yu Yang, and Magnus Carlsen has
With
the black
Fabiano.
pieces against Fabiano Caruana. I think that's a game we need to look at.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
World Championship
definitely.
vibes.
Exactly. And Anand will be playing against Mamedyarov, Grishchuk against Wesley So, Vachier-Lagrave against Yu Yang, and Aronian against Ding Liren. And I think soon, very shortly, the players will be showing up.
The round will begin in 3 minutes. There's a 10-minute break between the rounds for the players. So this is the penultimate round with Maxim Vachier-Lagrave leading. He's going to face Magnus Carlsen in the last round. Will we see Maxim entering the last round with half a point lead? Depends on this round. He's got the white pieces against Yu Yang. That's supposed to be an easier pairing than having the black pieces against Fabiano Caruana, but in Blitz you can never know.
Yeah, in Blitz you can never know, and anyway, the first round and the last round, somehow it has a different vibes, different feeling to play in a tournament, and especially last round, it always has a completely different atmosphere, and it's already, you have to give in everything.
Yeah. The thing is, if Magnus doesn't win the tournament, he will end up having more whites even if he doesn't want to.
He was not completely sure about it when he was...
I'm just joking, but what we are discussing here is that the new system is that from tomorrow on, every classical game, if the result is a draw in the classical game, we will have an Armageddon game right after. There's a 15-minute break for the players, but the same day we will have another game where white has 10 minutes at the start, black has 7 minutes, but in case of a draw, it's a point for black. And that's why we are discussing whether is it better to have more whites or more blacks in this tournament.
But okay, after all, in the classical game, it's better to have white.
True.
And we shouldn't exclude at all that it's going to be decisive already, the classical game.
That's true.
All the players said that it's not influencing them, the way they are going to compete and play their classical game, whether what will happen in the Armageddon.
But what will influence them is that the time control is different too for the classical game. There's no increment from the very beginning until move 41. They only have 2 hours each. And that means that there can be really big time scrambles to get to move 41.
Yeah, I have the feeling that we're going to have a big part, or at least some part of the tournament blitzing, not only today, but also the end of the classical games as well.
I love it. I can't wait. This is the most traditional format we are witnessing today. The blitz is 3 minutes plus 2 seconds. That's the traditional time control for blitz. But from tomorrow on, classical games is 2 hours per player until move 41. And from move 41, it's only a 10-second increment. That's not a big deal either. You're right. There will be lots of time trouble moments.
Yeah, and once they get into time trouble, they cannot get out of it, right?
That's
it's not
great
like,
news for you guys.
it's not like in classical games that you have time trouble with the controls 40, 60, 80. But it's like they reach 40 or maybe they reach 30. I mean, you never know. Maybe some of the players like Grishchuk or even other players can end up having 5 minutes maybe already move 30, move 22, whatever. Yes. And then that's it. That's it.
Blitz game for the next 30
we
moves.
have the game started. So
Round
Fabiano, wow. What's going to happen? Knight h5.
Oh, an interesting offbeat line by the world champion again.
Again, it's a blitz kind of system, and let's see what will be the outcome of it. Does he go back knight f6 or
a6 was played to
a6?
prevent knight
yeah,
b5.
of course, knight b5 is always there in these situations. So, well, white is going to be straightforward, queen d2 and long castle. That's what I'm expecting from white. Interesting choice by the world champion.
Yeah, the knight is now going back to f6. It wasn't doing much on h5.
Yeah, but white now has a little bit plus in development, and white is ready to play also sometimes bishop f4 a little more. Of course, it seems like Fabiano, this is not the first game that he's castling long in an e4 system. So let's see how he's going to develop here. Is he going to play knight f3, or also going to play h4, h5, which I would consider, especially that it's a blitz game.
Well, it's definitely not the opening they have been repeating in London, so that's something refreshing.
Yeah, well, knight f3, of course, white develops, but later on, really, it's a big question whether white is going to be attacking h3, g4, or possibly he's going knight e5. But I see first bishop f4, queen b6, I guess, yeah. And of course, if black can play simply bishop b7, develop knight d7, and playing c5, then actually black can have even a great game, not only a reasonable game.
Yeah.
So the question is whether how white will be trying against this.
Takes on
So
c5.
takes, and let's see what white is up to.
It's incredible
Actually-
how strange the opening was at the beginning, and now it looks just like a nice position for black. It's comfortable.
Well, black plays one move, bishop b7, and then he controls the squares, so it can get pretty reasonable. Actually, it is a quite healthy position from black side. I think playing king b1 was kind of maybe you don't have time if you want to look for an advantage. Bishop b7. Knight is well placed on e5, but I'm not sure it will give much. I think black can go knight c6 at this point, or he can't.
Knight c6 was
That's what he
indeed played,
played.
and knight to d3.
Knight e3, black goes queen b6, and well, bishop e3, queen c7, knight c5. Okay, knight c5.
Some pressure.
Well, white is really trying to get the bishop, the white square bishop, but black can go rook d8, and after that he can even go back bishop c8. But he went rook fd8. So white is going queen c1, rook c8. So he goes for attacks.
You are only missing one piece on the c5, then it would be full house.
Exactly. No, this fianchetto bishop on g7, it's quite good. I'm even... So finally g4,
G4.
knight b4, but I don't like really this c1, this crowdy part
Yeah.
of the board. King on b1, queen on c1. Black is very active, very active.
Yes, white's piece setup is not
So-
harmonious.
And now black is ready to go knight to d5, which is not going to be too nice for white.
So Fabiano took on b7.
Queen takes, now even rook c3 is something white has to consider, so that's why he played, I think, bishop d4, not to allow rook c3. Knight c6, very good move, I think.
The bishop drops back to e3 and now
And
knight
then
e5.
knight e5, knight c4, black has a cool game.
Very nice
seems.
position for the world champion, starting with a very interesting opening choice, that it has worked out well for him.
Well, now the question is whether is he going to be... Well, probably b4 is not so obvious yet. Though he can go... Well, after b4, white would be going knight a4. So... rook c3.
Exchange sacrifice.
Yes, actually,
typical on the
it was
Sicilian.
inviting. It was inviting. So now rook c8. This is... Actually, it's very unpleasant in a blitz game. Even in classical game, it can be very... But actually, I'm not surprised at all that Magnus couldn't resist.
Yes, b4
Simply
is always in the
sacrificing.
air as well. Knight c3 and b4.
Well, there are a lot of different tactical things can happen. Usually black has full compensation in such positions.
Fabi goes f4
F4.
to force
Knight
a response
C4.
from the knight.
Well, the c4, these double pawns, white has... really, it's not very promising, but let's see what he has in mind. Oops,
Knight takes
knight
c3, intermediate move.
This was not a nice intermediate thing. Now knight takes d1. Ah, he's not even
He
taking on
takes the
D1.
bishop instead. He prefers to keep the knight on
Yeah,
the
he
board.
wants to go rook a4 and attack. Yeah, now he's in good form. Queen g2. What an unpleasant move. All these pawns are hanging, also putting pressure on f1. Also, the c2 pawn, very unpleasant. Okay, it's not so easy for black, but
F5 by Fabiano to
F5.
try to create counter chances by attacking the black king.
well, I think black is just grabbing the pawn on g4.
I also don't see anything against that. F6 isn't an issue, neither f takes g6.
But okay, now Fabiano has only 25 seconds,
Magnus
24
took on
seconds.
a2, knight takes a2, giving up the piece because there's rook takes
Yeah,
c2,
rook takes
winning the
c2.
queen.
But I'm not sure.
There was also queen b2 check,
But I'm not sure it was the
but
best
the
move
rook was
because
hanging
now,
on f1.
yeah, but now Queen e5 is threatening.
Mm-hmm.
So probably Rook e4 should be the move here. I think Rook e4 has to be the move.
Magnus is down to 45 seconds, while Fabio only has 18 seconds left.
Well, I think Rook e4 is the move what has to be played.
Magnus is really taking his time to calculate this moment, how to prevent queen e5 check. Knight goes back to b4. He allows the check and goes king h6.
And what about? Well, it's definitely brave. Rook d1,
Wow.
Rook d1, and if knight c2 and knight goes back to b4.
Magnus takes the rook on d3.
Ah, that was simply hanging.
Fabi takes back. And rook takes c2.
And game over, no?
This has to be game over.
Or
Fabi made the move with
maybe
1
it's a draw.
second.
No, maybe it's a draw. g5, rook d6, f6.
And that's it.
Rook d6, f6.
He
But it's a
doesn't
nice move.
take
He can-
the rook.
No,
yeah,
because that's
it
just
will be
a perpetual check.
We can show it on
Yeah.
the board quickly that after e takes d6,
Yeah.
that's a mistake accepting the rook because there's no shutter for the king. There's perpetual check with queen
I'm
e5.
not even sure that it's a perpetual, you know, because
Oh,
black
wait.
can sneak
King
out on
f8.
f8. And then if check, king e7 and sneaks out. But simply,
It was more elegant. f6.
it's just f6.
Yeah.
After that, there are no talks, no checks, no nothing.
Yeah, though we need to
it's
catch up
just-
with the games that are
What
still being
happens?
played. Ding Liran's game
Let's
is still
see.
on.
No, Maxim won.
Maxim has won. Ding Liran is
Has
still
won.
playing.
Yeah, let's see. Aronyan, it's a rook hand game. Black is better. Black
yeah,
is
okay,
better.
this is less exciting. Then let's head over to
Takes.
Mamedjarov if that game is still on as well. Another rook end game? Okay, great. We can choose from 2 rook end games. Which
Well,
one would you
actually,
like?
objectively, both are draw, I think. So it's yeah, this is definitely going to be a draw.
Only a few seconds
Few
left, but it's
moves.
a
Gives the
theoretical
check
draw.
on e5, and it's a draw. And this game also has to be a draw, actually. But you never know with the time right
Aronian
now.
Ding is a draw unless someone got flagged, which hopefully did not happen.
Yeah. Well, this is very difficult even to try to win actually with by Mamedjarov. He's trying, but there is a very slim chance. It's simply king f4. White is probably just going rook f8. But of course, it's still white has to.
Defend, yes, a few
defend.
seconds left. Vichy has still 40 seconds left on the clock, so that's good
Yeah,
news.
there's not much chance for black, but still. Of course, rook f8, check again, going back to a8 with the rook. But still, actually, I think maybe even he can have some problem. Rook a8, check, king
H3 and
g1.
king g1 was played.
Yeah. Now he's going to the other side with the king. Well, Black is trying to. I don't even know why. What kind of winning chances Black has? You know, it's like it's not so easy to visualize.
What is the trap that White
Yeah,
could
that's
fall
what I
into?
wonder. That okay, King goes to H4 and White goes back to the 8th rank with the Rook. Exactly how Vichy is doing, so he can start giving checks. There is. Well, you can always lose everything, but it will be pretty hard to do so. And just goes back and forth, and Mamedyarov will have to pay attention not to lose on time. So now check, and then goes back again. So there is not really serious chance here.
And it's Mamedyarov who has less time, only 10 seconds left, and Vichy is still on 20
just doing
seconds.
nothing. King E4. Well, he can just check. He goes back again to A8. And again, we have a nearly 100 move game already.
This must be the longest game that we have seen.
We had, I think, 97 or something.
97. This is.
Okay, so agreed to a draw.
Oh,
Okay,
then we are not breaking any
so-
records. A draw. And at the same time, we were mainly focusing on Magnus Carlsen's game, but also the leader of the tournament, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, has won his game. I think we should go through that game and see how he did it.
Let's see.
He is now the leader with 1 round to go. It's Maxim Vachier-Lagrave with half a point ahead of Magnus Carlsen. They will face each other in the last
round,
This is the
fantastic.
perfect scenario.
Yeah. So I'm sure Magnus is already having his thoughts that this is nice turn, right? And they have a past. They have a past. They are
They do.
rivals there,
They
and they
do.
have some painful issues, painful games and matches against each other.
Even
not
just
long
coming
time
from
ago.
the Grand Chess Tour,
Yeah.
the Ivory Coast leg of the Grand Chess Tour, Magnus lost both of his blitz games against Maxime, and now Maxime is the leader. I'm sure that Magnus is extra motivated to
Yeah.
win, give something back for the Ivory Coast games, and take the first spot, because that's
Yeah.
what matters here.
Yeah, I mean, after that he has a headache what to choose, right? Which color?
White or
But
black?
still, okay, obviously he wants to win. That would be a nice achievement by him. So this was an open Spanish by Yu Yangyi against Vachier-Lagrave. And they were playing this main line, D4. Oh yeah, I played it quite many times with white pieces. And though not this line, it's without queens. This is exchange, and b4. So this is it's better for white clearly because of this a6 weak pawn. So now black is just defending from his rook from a8. c5. Of course, black wants to break free from all this pressure. Bishop e4, rook a7, keeping an eye on and defend the a6 pawn. Black has to do that. B takes c5, rook c7, c6, c6. So after
knight
rook a6,
rook a6
with a
attacks the
tempo.
knight. Yes, very important detail with c6.
Yeah, white has a pawn up here, clear advantage, but it's not so easy to materialize a pawn up in this. For example, with one rook and 4 pawns against 3, it's a theoretical draw. Rook d6, it seems like an important outpost for the white rook on d6. g5 looking for counter chances. Black is, well, this is, yeah, after knight d4, this is very unpleasant for black because the 2 rook on the 6th rank is attacking the h6. Rook b7, king f8, and then here simply white got an extra pawn, 2 pawns now, and also vulnerable king. So actually it was a pretty straightforward victory by Maxime.
Maxime has been in
Well
a really
done.
impressive shape.
Yeah.
Levon Aronian too started very well. I wonder how he's doing, if we can bring up the cross table, the standings after round 8 with 1 round to go. The sole leader is Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, the world number 4. World champion Magnus Carlsen is half a point behind him, and they will face each other in the last round. This is what we have been hoping for.
Yeah, this is, well, actually Aronian may catch up.
A
but,
point behind Magnus.
And who does Levon plays? He plays with
Yu Yang.
Yeah.
Wesley So has been struggling, and Vichy. The two of them are on 2.5 points. And in the last round, Ding Liren has the white pieces against Vichy, and Wesley So faces Fabiano Caruana. But actually, maybe it's not that bad to finish at the bottom of the standings. We were discussing, is it better to have more whites or more blacks? We will need to know how it turns out with the new format.
Yeah, but still, for now, I think they are
shape,
thinking.
because it shows that you're
they are
not such a good
thinking
shape.
how this works out. Yeah, and now this is the pairing what we see for the last round.
Yeah, this is the final round. Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces. He has to win. It's almost an Armageddon situation. He can just play for a win. Any other result will give the first place to Maxime, and then we will need to see if Maxime prefers more white games or black games.
Yeah, but this I think maybe it will be a decisive game. I'm not sure.
I
because
think so.
Of course, Magnus will fight until the very end.
Definitely.
There is no other way to do it. But of course, the players are also very tired by now. It's 9:10, and they had a long day. They had a photo session. They had a press conference. Of course, they were preparing also, but I think they are always ready for a little blitz.
And this is
usually
the final
they take
push.
it as a fun.
Final effort in the Blitz tournament. And tomorrow, remember, the classical tournament begins, but it's not so classical. This year we have a new format that is the players will get 2 hours each at the beginning of the game. And only after move 40, we have an increment of 10 seconds. If the game is drawn, the classical game, the players will have a 15-minute break before they need to play an Armageddon with 10 minutes for white and 7 minutes for black, where black has draw odds.
Yeah, but I think all the players will be focusing definitely on the classical game. So they go back after this event of the Blitz event, they go back and prepare and focus for the classical game, and then they will see, they will have after a draw. If it's a draw, they have at least 15 minutes or 20 minutes before playing the playoff, the Armageddon game, which is going to be quite a challenge for all participants. Keep this in mind, that if it's a draw, you continue with a completely different form, and you have to switch a button in your brain, that it's really different. And even if who is the winner, they don't take 2 points, as if you win a classical game, but they only take 1.5 points, and the loser still gets half a point. So this is, I'm also very interested and curious about it, how it will be the timetable, seeing those half a points, 1.5 points.
I think we are all excited about
collecting.
seeing how this new format will work out. And do let us know about your opinion on today's Blitz and also the new experimental format of Norway Chess by using the hashtag Norway Chess or hashtag Altibox. We are looking at both hashtags. You can contact us and we will make sure to read those tweets and bring up the best tweets during the show tomorrow.
Definitely, definitely. But
final
still,
games
we
have
have
begun.
this, and we just have started.
Indeed, we're going to focus on the one and only decisive game for the first place. Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave.
Incredible fight. B4, 3B4.
Oh, Magnus
And-
with the offbeat openings.
Yeah, definitely. He wants something interesting, entertainment, and keep himself also be entertained with these openings. But for example, the one before, he was really it turned out very well for him. So let's see what he can figure out here. A3.
He is basically going for this gambit line where he wants black to take on a3, give up that pawn on the queen side.
Well, the important thing is for Maxime not to think too much. That if he would start thinking what to do, taking, grabbing on a3 or d4 or develop, that would be could be big crisis for him if he would lose too much time.
Yeah, he took both on d4 and on a3, so it's an extra pawn for black, but more a development for white. And the a and b5s are open for white's pieces.
But Maxime really reacted in a very calm way, and also he didn't waste it too much time. Until now, the time is very balanced actually. And after knight c6, black has a pawn up. Of course, it's not for free. It was sacrificed by Magnus. But usually the surprise is what counts in a blitz game, and that's why I think Magnus is going for such choices in the last few games.
Also, in terms of playing style, I think Maxim himself would prefer to give up a pawn for the initiative. That's what he usually does.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, I don't think Magnus for the moment is very happy. So, I mean, he has the initiative, but it would be kind of natural to have a pawn on a4, let's say.
I still have the initiative.
I mean, okay, one pawn doesn't count much.
Yeah.
I understand. I was a person to give up pawns sometimes.
Yeah, and more than
Still,
one pawn.
Yeah. And it's a blitz game, 3 minutes only. But
Trade
still.
on a3 and queen b6.
Queen a6 and knight g4 will be coming. Obviously, the e3 square, f2 square is very vulnerable, so it's not very easy for white. It's not a very good situation for the moment for white, I think.
Yes, this is still extra material for black, and he has created threats now with knight g4.
Well,
although
now black can blunder somehow with knight e3. After that, white would go knight a4 and probably take queen e3,
That's pretty.
takes. But
it just gives back the pawn, basically.
I mean, yeah, it's getting back the
And
pawn
the
and
knight
knight
will head
c5.
to c5, so
but
good
okay.
knight versus bad bishop.
Let's see what is black doing. Queen c5. Of course, queen c5 is a very logical move, putting pressure over the a3 rook, rook b3, and then white probably later on wants to go knight a4, but black just played f5. So to cut the power of the bishop on d3, h3.
So this is a knight of a, so knight h6 had to be played.
Yeah, and now queen e7. Of course, if black knight would be, let's say, on e6, then that would be paradise for black, but I'm
Yeah,
not
it
sure
would
it
be
will
ideal.
ever reach there.
It's way too far away from that square, and then
No,
the white
but-
knight is heading towards
Well,
c5.
white should be probably going queen f2 or somehow to control the c5 square, or queen e3, but he went queen c3. So actually, I think in the last few moves, Magnus got something out of the possibilities what he could. I'm not sure f5 was the right move for black, because now knight will come to c5, and definitely white has great compensation, I think.
Yeah, I love those dark
Different.
squares.
Yeah, and you have
for
a
white's
pass
pieces.
pawn, you never know. And this h6 knight is definitely not very useful for the moment. And actually you would need it very much on e6. Black's plan probably knight d8 trying to get to e6, but I'm not sure it will be in time, because white can go rook b1, also sometimes even exchanging the bishop on a6, because this pawn on the e pawn, it can be very, very powerful.
E6.
And actually e6, maybe queen e5 will be happening.
It's a very forcing
e5.
line.
Queen e7, but now what Magnus has in his plans, because knight e4 might be next move of black.
He must have something, otherwise e6 will be a questionable decision, allowing knight d6.
Well, okay, rook b1, and now after knight e4, probably eventually he might be sacrificing rook b7. So probably that's the plan. After knight e4, he wants to be taking it and then play rook b7, sacrificing material. But it's still not so, sorry, then white would be going here, queen f6.
The exchange sacrifice. Queen takes c5 was not possible because of the mate on g7.
Okay, so let's see what's the situation. So actually this is the position they have. And he's
Rook
going rook
b8.
b8, right? Rook b8. Ah, rook takes b8, and yeah, and after queen c5, actually white would be going e7. So rook e8 had to be played. And now it looks very shaky from some point for black, but the c5 knight is hanging for
Yeah.
the moment. So
And if you need to move it, then the e6 pawn will have no protection.
it's a nice move, rook e8. I just want to show that queen c5 was not possible to play because of e7, and after rook e8, rook c8. And
Beautiful.
actually, after this, not e8, because the queen
Yeah.
would be going back, but queen e6, and only then queen takes. So let's go back what happens after rook e8. After rook e8, this is unpleasant news for white.
f5.
F5.
So if the knight is
and
taken now,
probably he wants to go f6.
yeah, queen takes c5, and queen c7.
But queen f8.
Queen f8 is on the board. Piece up for Maxime, and Magnus has to prove what he has.
Well, queen c6, I guess. But then e3, no?
Magnus only has 4 seconds left and a piece
Ooh.
up. A piece down, sorry, piece up for Maxime, who is the leader of the tournament. He's about to win the Blitz.
Oops. Ah, so the game is over.
The rook is gone.
Rook is gone, time is gone.
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave about to beat Magnus Carlsen and claim the Blitz title. That means that he will be able to choose whether he wants to have more white or black games in the classical format.
Rook b7, f6, so maybe he's going to go rook b6 now.
To prevent f6. There's still a bit of a danger because
Or
of the
simply
e7 plus pawn.
he goes maybe e3.
Rook b6 has been chosen by Maxime to prevent f6. Queen takes e4.
Yeah, rook f6 and rook f7. That's what I thought.
And then it's game over, a rook up, and Magnus will resign.
He lost on time, probably.
Both cases, I think he was about to resign,
Well.
and then he lost on time. Maxime
Wow, what a
Vachier-Lagrave wins
performance.
the Blitz tournament.
Wow.
7.5 points for
Wow.
the Frenchman. That's impressive.
Wow.
It's going to be a 1.5 point lead, or one point at least, a full point ahead of the rest of the field.
Let's see, there are still games running.
Levon Aronian could become second if he wins.
Well, I'm not sure this is exactly how it's standing. There are many pawns around, but it is very, very interesting. He has, of course, very strong pawns, and actually maybe, yeah, now it's clear that he's actually should be winning, I
And
think.
we have the updated standings with Maxime's point already added 7.5 points.
Wow.
Impressive result by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. He's gonna choose whether he wants to have more white or more black games in the classical tournament. Levon Aronian at the same time may
He's going
catch
to-
Magnus.
Yeah, well, Aronian is winning. Is going to be,
The only issue is the time, whether
unless there is a drawing.
perpetual 7 seconds now.
No, queen check and yeah, h1, c1 queen.
And he has
then-
just promoted.
yeah.
Yuliangit takes the rook on f2, but this is it after queen
Though
e3
Levon
check
has only
handshake.
5 seconds, but
That means that Levon
It's
Aronian
over.
catches Magnus Carlsen. They both have now 6 points out of 9.
So won in the last game against Caruana, and we have Dingley Ren and a draw.
And that's it. All the games have finished.
And
This is going to
Grischuk
be
lost again.
exciting. I'm curious
Wow.
whether Maxime prefers to have more white or more black games. And once again, the question is, it's a question because of the new format. In a usual super tournament, you would not even ask. Everybody wants to have more white games. But here, for the Armageddon, they will have the same color as in the classical game. And then do you want to have draw odds, but less time? Or do you want the situation where you have to play for a win?
I'm pretty confident that Maxime will go for the white. I mean,
white.
after all, it's still an advantage, and I also believe that he considered that it's an advantage for white to have 10 minutes and black has 7 minutes in the Armageddon. So I would expect him to go for the white pieces, choosing white.
We shall see. Let us know about your opinion on the new format and what do you think is better to have the white pieces in Armageddon or the black pieces. And you should get to the Armageddon first, of
Yeah.
course. The classical game is there before that. From tomorrow on, we will see this new exciting format. Use the hashtag Altibox or hashtag Norway Chess to let us know about your thoughts on the Blitz tournament, how Maxime Vachier-Lagrave's play impressed you, whether it was the most exciting to follow. Also, Levon Aronian was in great shape for most of the tournament.
Yes, yeah.
And Magnus-
What was your favorite move of today's Blitz competition?
For me, the rook blunders. That's how I would do it.
No,
But every game.
I think
no.
actually Magnus played some of great games too. I mean,
Masterclass
made-
endgames.
Yeah, he made some excellent. Really, I mean, Magnus can play some moves in blitz games. Like you can feel that he understands the game so much. But of course, the star of today is Vachier-Lagrave. He was so impressive, starting 3 out of 3, and practically he lost only one game against Fabiano, I think. He lost only one.
Maxime, let me just
Maxime,
double
and,
check.
practically, he lost one. He drew one, and he won the rest of his games. So he was extremely stable. He was extremely good in working with his time management, and he was incredibly focused. That was
Yes.
very clear also in this last game. But I think actually Magnus paid the price of his opening choices in some of the game. But okay, it's still.
I think we will be joined by the winner of the Blitz tournament, so we need a quick moment for getting him mic'd up. Congratulations to Maxime Vachier-Lagroix for winning the Blitz tournament with 7.5 points, an impressive score. Maxime, I need to apologize because you were here at the beginning of the event and I was claiming that there was no player on a perfect score. I somehow wrote that in the first round you made a draw and that was incorrect. You started with 3 out of 3.
Yeah.
And then you went on to, there was just one moment when you lost to Fabiano and then you went back onto the winning streak. How did you feel about the Blitz format and your shape?
Well, in general, unfortunately, you cannot transpose Blitz shape into a classical time control shape. Otherwise, I would be feeling good. I mean, I still feel good about my play in general, of course, against Fabiano, but I guess my choice was a bit wrong, and I got a position that was not that easy to play. And yeah, then the next game against Vichy I was not happy with. Of course, I had my share of luck against Shah, for instance, or even in this last game against Magnus. I mean, I was a pawn up, then I sort of let him get in control, but then I defended well. But anyway, I mean, you don't go +6 by accident, so it's pretty good. I don't know yet which number I will choose, because it will depend on the colors against specific opponents, so I will do exactly what Magnus did last year. Yeah. And then, so then I'll see what I can do in the tournament, but of course, this is a great start.
Judith, about the games, which were some of the most exciting moments for you about Maxime's games?
Well, actually, you were very impressive in your time management. How did you manage that part of the tournament? Because I could see that you were extremely fast and you made very fast decisions. Here, for example, in the last game against Magnus, you reacted very calmly, like if you were expecting this opening, right? It's only after that you went maybe f5 was kind of...
No, but I didn't like my move d5, but because then I allow him all this counterplay. But yeah, if he gives me a pawn, I thought, free real estate, I'll take it.
How do you see this new format? It's the first time ever that there will be an Armageddon game in case there's a draw in the classical part.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I welcome all kind of initiatives. So, I mean, until we've proven it works or not, I mean, I'm ready to experiment it. I was very happy to be invited for this reason in particular. And then, you know, whatever works will take. And then maybe, you know, it can inspire some other organizers. And if it doesn't work, I mean, it's not that big a deal, I think.
But I think it's not only the Armageddon which is very special and unexpected, but the classical game.
Yeah.
What feelings do you have about that, having after move 40 only 10 seconds until the rest of the game?
Well, I would prefer if it was only 2 seconds.
Another blitz. You said that you will have a look at what numbers will the other players receive, so I just want to explain that Maxime gets to choose his number and all the rest of the players will get the highest number available, so Maxime will know what numbers the other players can get. That's an interesting strategy game. Who do you want to play against with what color? But in general, when you look at the Armageddon, 10 minutes versus 7, do you prefer the white or black?
I tested it out a bit with my friend Jules Moussard. In general, I was holding confidently with black, but I think it depends also on specific opponents. So I will also look into that when I choose my colors.
All right.
And I would have one more question. What do you think, how important it is your opening choice in an Armageddon?
I think it's crucial because with white you want to press, you want to make use of these 3 minutes, and with black you really want to, not spend too much time in the opening, be on the safe side. So, because 10 minutes against 7 is quite a lot to overcome, I think, with black. But at the same time, if you get a smart opening, then you could end up being just fine.
So you think it's about the same importance like in classical game? What kind of opening do you choose?
Probably even, no, I cannot say more, but we'll have to prepare for 2 games. That's almost certain.
Okay, I'd like to wish you good luck. Have a good rest and congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can't wait to know what number you will end up choosing. So that's something that Maxime will decide tonight. Until what time can you?
I have no idea. I'd love to ask the organizers.
All right, the arbiters will let us know later
Yeah.
how much time Maxime has to work out all the strategic game. Is it like an Avalon game, or is this more difficult or less difficult? What do
It's
you think?
easier, it's just pure mathematics.
And you are very
But
good
you're
at
good at
mathematics. So if you guys don't know, Maxime has a degree in mathematics. We wish you the best of luck for the main event and congratulations one more time for winning the Blitz. Very impressive games.
Thank you.
We will see you guys tomorrow for the classical event where you will get to see Maxime and if he chose more white or more blacks.
No,
and
this, I can safely say my number will be below 5.
Below 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that information. Now we know a bit. Thank you very much, Maxime. We will be back tomorrow with the first round of the 7th edition of Altibox Norway Chess at 5 p.m. local time when the games begin. We will be going live earlier, so make sure to join us a bit before that. Thanks for more time and see you guys tomorrow.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Da er du klar.
5 sekunder. E4,
D6,
D4,
D5,
springer C3, springer slår E4, dronning D8 sjakk, løper G5 sjakk,
konge C7,
løper D8 matt,
over og ut.
Hvis dere kan bli forelsket i New York, så faller dere også for HTH sin nyhet New York. Med de svarte metallrammene og det industrielle utseendet. Da er det bra at vi har ham her. Han hjelper dere. Og hvis dere ikke vil montere det selv, så har vi også han her. Og før dere vet ordet av det, har dere et nytt kjøkken. I kult design og med smarte detaljer. Smart, ikke sant? Det er kjøkkenkjærlighet som holder. Hej!